Okay, let me get something up. Let me
So
give you the.
George is not joining us today, huh?
George is not. George is with family, and I'm not able. I was wanting to do a couple history or fight clubs with him. There you go. If you want to watch the live feed, there it is.
There we go. I muted it.
And let me pull it up
Oh.
myself. There we go.
Are we on where they can see us?
I only have two people watching. That's probably me and you.
We got Goofy Strawberry.
Wait. No, let me see. Yeah. Hello, Goofy Strawberry. What's up? Let me continue this tease. Brad and Jay are looking at March 1982 and April 1904. Join in the fun as we record these two podcasts live. All right.
I got a notification that Spider-Man Crawlspace is live.
Well, there you go.
Spider History with JR. He's my favorite. God, I love that.
I think he's overrated, but
you've been listening to George too much. George is a bitter old man, and you've been listening to him too much.
That's true. Goofy Strawberry, I don't know. What's up with you? Hello, six people.
We got 7. We got 7 watching now.
7. There you go. How about we wait till 10 and then we'll start? What do you think? Feel free to talk in. Well, we just lost.
It is. It is. Wait. 10 o'clock your time. That's another 45 minutes.
10 people watching.
Oh, I see.
They're coming in pretty fast. Okay. Feel free to chat it up in the YouTube chat. We'll wait. We're up to 8. I should pull up on my my iPad the 1982 books we're talking about. Let's see. Amazing 226.
Yeah.
Let me get there. I think I just bought another year of Marvel Unlimited. My subscription was up, so.
Yeah, mine's up in December, but I renewed, so.
I love it.
Yeah, it's been a big help. I mean, as far as I was able to sit and whip through some comics tonight while sitting upstairs watching TV and don't have to dig through my long boxes. But I just have a dickens of a time navigating it, though. It's
is it mainly the Amazing Spider-Man that you have problems finding? Because it's under the of all things, not which you would think.
No, I mean I can find the titles, but the problem is it looks different whether it's on my pad, my Kindle Fire, or my computer, or my iPhone, and it always wants to move on me. I mean, I'll get the alphabet up, and I'll get ready to press it, and then everything will move on me.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like I don't know whether I'm logged in or not. Sometimes with Marvel.
Do you like to read it like full page, or do you like to do the panel full screen?
I do the panels.
Oh, I don't do that because I don't like. I'm not used to looking at comics like that.
Well, I'm old, so I have to bring it up. It's like I have to have the Reader's Digest version, old people version or whatever. So I gotta tap it and where did I put that thing anyway? I think I put it away. I think I decided to finally dig out some old comics because I'm gonna have to read through them anyway.
All right, I didn't look at the numbers. How many we got? We're up to 8.
8.
No, Enigma, you don't have to be a Patreon member to watch this one. This one is for the masses. So, Enigma, if you would like to be a Patreon member, I'd appreciate it. Zach and Neil and I recorded 7 Spider satellites on Monday, I think.
Holy crap.
Yes, Venkman, it's just JR and Brad tonight.
Yeah. I don't know if you're going to be disappointed or not, Venkman. So...
Strawberry, I am on spring break. I do not have to go to school tomorrow, nor all of next week.
Goofy, how old are you? I'm so mad I have to go to school in the morning.
Matt, you're on the part where you're chasing Martin Lee in the helicopter. That's a fun part. However, there is a part with that helicopter that took me at least an hour trying to figure it out because I couldn't get the right controls to Goofy is 11. There you go. No cussing, JR. We have minors.
Wait. You're 11 years old and your folks are letting you hang out with us.
240 and 140 and 175-year-old man.
Like I'm being trolled. I mean, it's almost like he was trying to draw me into a conversation, and then what's that guy's name? Chris Hansen will pop out or whatever, and what were you doing communicating with an 11-year-old on the internet?
Yeah, no doubt. That's nothing but trouble.
What do you mean? What's my point?
Exactly. 11-year-olds want to know what the point is, JR. Do you have one?
Tell your parents that you're talking online with a couple of middle-aged dudes or whatever. I mean,
Speak for yourself. I'm not middle-aged.
I mean, aren't we still? Didn't they do a video about Michael Jackson for that very thing?
Oh my gosh! Let's move on. Enigma beating on dragons, huh? Those guys. Martin Lee's Mr. Negative's dragon people get harder, especially the I think the second DLC is really hard. They have all these force fields and things that are hard to beat. So we're going the wrong way. I said we'd go live at 10. We're going
Holy
to
cow,
7.
we alienated somebody.
We
alienated 2 people. Must have been you.
Here they come. 8. When we get to 10, tell your friends. We'll start the show. You have to
I don't know if they're like us. They don't have many friends.
I don't know.
That's why we're doing this.
I don't know if it's allergies or a cold or something, so my voice isn't 100%. So I am sipping on some water to clear the passages. I'm excited that we're doing the last issue of Electric Company. I mean, Spidey Super Stories. I remember picking that off the spinner rack, JR.
Oh, hang on.
I was kind of sad that it ended back in the day in 1982. You have no friends. Strawberry, there are kids out there that like Spider-Man. That's why you got married. JR, she's supposed to be your best friend. Come on.
Oh, you funny kid.
By the way, are we hitting up Fanfare #1?
Yes, we are.
Oh, okay. I don't like that story. I've never liked that story.
It's a dumb story, but see, and I was just, I'll wait. I had like, this is what the one reason I was kind of hoping George would join me, because I have some jokes all ready to go with it. But I go ahead.
You can use them on me. I'll take them.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just won't be as much fun with you because it won't gut you as much as I was hoping it would gut George.
Oh my gosh. God. Let me guess. You're going to pick on Stegron and the Savage Land, if I had to guess.
Well, I'm not really going to pick on Stegron, but
we're up to 9. You got one more, and I'm starting this show. Come on, tell a friend, or open another window.
I was about to say, hey, are you guys in the basements? Because I am. In fact, you can see me. I'm in my basement.
Strawberry, you just said you're 11 years old. How old are you?
See, I thought he was trolling me. I'm not 11.
Oh, my gosh. Does Spencer have spring break this week, or is it next week? Or
no, at the end of the month.
End of the month. Do anything fun?
Probably not. I mean, we don't have any money.
Oh my God, Strawberry's 9. Good grief.
Nah, I'm immune to it now. I mean, stop trolling me. I ain't paying attention to you no more.
Yeah. Did Spencer get a PS4, by the way? I think you said
yes,
he did. Okay.
Yeah, I got it for Christmas.
He liking that Spider-Man game?
Oh, he loved it. It only took him 2 days to beat it, but anyway. So.
Oh my gosh. I thought 2 months was fast for me.
We're trying to get him. He's got a lot going on. He's in the competitive show choir, so I don't think. I'm trying to think. I think we've got him a couple of more PS4 games, but he's not been tearing it up.
God of War
tearing it up like he did Xbox.
God of War has a Thor Asgardian thing with it. JR, tilt your camera down a little less headroom, if you don't mind.
Okay.
There you go. Much.
See, you can see my.
I want to see the Crossface shirt. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
What is up? We're stuck at 9 people.
In my expanding waistline, unfortunately. It's been a long year.
Oh, good. I didn't even change from work. This is what I wore to work.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is what I was wearing to work. I just put the shirt over it. So,
should we start? I don't think I'm going to get my 10. All right.
Might as well.
All right. Coming down in 3, 2. Hey, Crawl Spacers. Welcome to our Spider history for March 2019. And we have JR on the line. Welcome, JR.
Well, thank you for inviting me tonight, even though it is my own show.
And it's your own segment. Well, who else would I invite? George, but no, he was busy. So for March, we're going back to 1982, which is a long time ago. We're Amazing Spider-Man number 226. We're going to start talking about with the Black Cat cover. Talk to me about this, JR.
Yeah, I was all of 18 years old when this came out. I was, what year? 82. Holy crap. It was my freshman year at Indiana State University.
I was 7 years old.
Boy, it was utterly, you were probably happier than I was at that point in time because I was miserable at first year. I hated it.
You hated freshman year? Why?
Oh, hated. Well, I'd come from a small town, and even at that, from a small town, even Terre Haute, Indiana seemed like a metropolis, So it was a eye-opening experience for me.
So I've always liked this cover by John Romita Jr. with the black cat on the side of the building. Let's see if I can. Yeah, my webcam's not going to show that. Evidently, it's
it was. I wasn't able to dig the issue out. It was supporting my my entertainment center.
Oh,
so
my
TV.
I forgot. You have a television entertainment center that's surrounded by comic books. That's funny. Roger Stern, John Romita Jr. did this issue. Take me through it.
This is a great Black Cat story.
Yes.
We kind of have to go first. We have to go back to Amazing Spider-Man number 204 and 205, which was the second appearance of the Black Cat. Issue 204 was written by Marv Wolfman, and then Marv subsequently, from what I understand in Marvel history, and somebody who might be a little bit more versed in might fill in some gaps or correct me, but I believe this was the time that Jim Shooter decided to end the writer-editor model at Marvel, where you had, I guess, where writers were also editors, and that'd been going on for a while. And I guess Shooter.
Why did he not like that?
My guess is, I'm just talking off the top. I don't know a whole lot about it. One of these days I'm going to have to read Marvel: The Untold Story. I'm suspecting.
That was great. That was a great book.
I'm suspecting it just got too clubby. I mean, you had
or they're doing 50% of a job when they got two of them. 50% on each job. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, and I think I don't know if they were having shipping problems or not. But anyway, he decided to end that model, and that alienated a lot of the staff, and also a lot of them left. So anyway, Wolfman leaves after 204, only halfway through part two or halfway through a two-part Black Cat story. And I'm now here I go on here. I'm unprepared. I don't know who wrote 205. I'm thinking it might have been Michelini actually to come in. But anyway, so not really knowing where Marv was going.
I can look. It's 205. Okay. Let's see.
Because Stern wrote in 206. And then Denny O'Neil came in for 207. Hey, we got 10. All right.
Look at you and your prediction. It was David Michelini and Keith Pollard. Yeah, very good.
I don't know if Marv left note. Marv did leave some notes, but Stern apparently, because Stern apparently saw some. But anyway, so Michelini decided to end it where Spider-Man's coming to arrest the Black Cat, and he gets to her apartment, and then there's all these pictures of him on the wall.
Right.
And
she's in love with him.
Yeah, she's got some kind of shrine, and she's saying that she did it
kind of
all
like
for
I
him.
do, and you do.
Yeah, well, yeah, but we're not looking for a substitute father figure like she was trying to give the idea that he. Anyway, so she starts acting childlike, and Spider-Man's going, well, I guess she does love me in her own simple way. He puts his arm around her and says, come on, Cat, we'll get you all the help you need. Well, Roger Stern takes over after a while, and he must have thought that is a really stupid way to end it. So what he did was the first scene we have the Black Cat. Well, they're taking the Fool Killer because Spider-Man just nabbed the Fool Killer in issue number 225. So the Fool Killer is getting dragged to this mental hospital, and the Black Cat happens to be there. And the Black Cat starts monologuing to this nurse, where basically she tells us that, she knew Spider-Man was going to catch her, and she can't fight him. And so she decided to pretend to be a lunatic, and therefore she'd go to a mental hospital instead of prison. And so she breaks out of the mental hospital. So anyway, so this is now we're back to morally ambiguous, clever Felicia.
And she wrote, "I am a fat slob" on that poor nurse. Oh, well, how rude.
Well, she's a villain. She's still a villain right now. Villains say unkind things about people, and they fart in elevators. I mean, that's just what villains do.
What was that last reference from?
Well, no, villains do all kinds of bad things. They
fart in elevators?
Yeah, they fart in elevators too.
I'm a villain. So are you.
That's one thing villains do. Oh my heavens, we lost. Who did we offend? We lost two
people that fart in elevators. That's who we offended.
Anyway, so Spidey's swinging through
for those audio listeners, we also are doing this live on YouTube, so people are watching us in real time and chatting it up on the YouTube chat. So that's who we keep referring to, who's watching us.
Oh, okay. So Matt Bird, I am 46 with a birthday in 2 weekends. Oh, you're an old dude. Let's see here.
Happy birthday, Matt Bird.
Stories from writer editors tend to be a lot more hit and miss. If the proper editor was editing the stories, might have been tighter. I was about to say, I mean, at least they had editors back then, and I'm not so sure if they have them nowadays. But so Spidey's swinging through town, and he decides he's going to do an advertisement for Marvel Team Up because he makes a reference. He makes a reference to Marvel Team Up number 114, which was a team up with the Falcon. But then a spotlight. He sees a spotlight. Spotlight comes in.
Real quick, that is the way to do it. And we often talk about it feels like the other satellite books aren't connected to the main Amazing book, and that is one simple panel that says, "Hey, I just had an adventure with the Falcon over in Team Up. You could go buy it if you'd like." And it makes it feel like the books are a bit connected. Would you agree? As opposed to now. Actually, now, I take that back. Now, you have Fred in his apartment in Friendly talking about who was from Amazing. So they're doing it a little bit better.
Yeah, I don't know. Marvel, I don't know. To me, referring to Marvel Team Up was kind of like referring to an alternate universe. Because the stories were typically just so wacky and just out of step.
By the way, are you aware that Marvel Team Up is coming back? Have you seen this?
No.
It's allegedly a Ms. Marvel book, Kamala Khan, and her first team up is with Spider-Man for the first couple issues because it's Marvel Team Up. So yeah. There you go.
Oh, Kamala Khan. Okay. All right.
I don't think you'll be picking up Marvel Team Up Volume 4 or whatever it is now.
No. I can't relate to Kamala. She's too young. And if I read her adventures, I feel like a pedophile. So anyway, so Spidey's swinging through town.
Yes, sorry.
There's a spotlight. So he goes down to see what it is. Someone's trying to get his attention, and it's Captain Jean DeWolf, by her roadster, and this is Captain DeWolf before the Sin Eater blasted a hole in her gut, courtesy of Peter David. Yeah. So anyway, she's getting his attention because she wants him to know that the Black Cat is on the loose again, and so. Spidey's thinking, he goes away and he goes, oh, the Black Cat again. Here, I think she likes me, but she's nothing. Here I am looking for a girl. I'm wanting to get laid so badly, and she turns out to be a thieving witch. So Spidey's kind of feeling depressed. Black Cat is in the process of stealing a painting, and it's amazing because here it only takes her 2 pages to steal something. Whereas when Bendis tells the story, it takes the Black Cat 13 pages to steal something.
Really?
And yes, and the Black Cat talks all the way through this, or she thinks all the way through this. Whereas in the Bendis story I was referring to, Mark Bagley was doing all the work because there was no dialogue. So, So, I mean, Bagley should have got a co-writing credit on Ultimate Spider-Man, considering how little dialogue there was sprinkled.
If I remember correctly, the Ultimate Spider-Man, the Felicia was a bit older, and Spider-Man was still a teenager.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. She unmasked him or realized he's a kid, and that was kind of creepy.
Yeah, and she threw up.
Yeah, I remember that.
So, anyway, so we go to the Chelsea district where Peter lives.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't live there anymore. He couldn't possibly live there anymore because it's been gentrified like so much of Manhattan Island. So I don't know where Peter lives anymore. Does anybody out there know where Peter lives nowadays? It used to be you could literally find his address in the old Chelsea area, but I don't know if they've pinned him down this time around.
I don't know.
So anyway, so Peter's saying, "Oh man, I got all kinds of dirty underwear. I got to do laundry today." So he goes to the laundromat, does his laundry, sees some good-looking woman, decides to flirt with her. She gives him the stink eye, and so he's not doing. He's thinking, "Well, this is pretty lousy." And well, it just so happens that the Black Cat's doing her laundry as well. Now, see, Peter has to go to the local laundromat, which I had to do one time because my washing machine was busted, and that's when I got actually the first call from Brad Douglas to guest star on the Crawl Space podcast.
Are you talking when I invited you? You were in the laundromat.
I was at the laundromat. Yeah,
that's funny. So that's
funny. My washing machine was broke, so I'm at the laundromat. So anyway.
Did I call you or did I email you? What did I do?
No, you called. I think you called the house, and my wife gave you my cell phone number.
That's hysterical.
And I was so anyway. So everybody's doing their
2006.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. And I was just supposed to guest star, and I never left.
You never left, yeah.
I never left.
Captain America and Avengers 4, you never left.
Crap! We're only down to 7. What the heck is happening?
It was the farting in the elevator. You killed him.
Golly, gee whiz. Let's see here. Anyway.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the Black Cat is doing her laundry in this fancy penthouse apartment she lives in, and she starts to flirt with this guy who's sitting there who's a stockbroker. And then he says, "Well, I'm single, you're single. Why don't you come up to room 17C for a nightcap?" And then Felicia's sitting there saying, "Well, no thanks. I kind of thinking I've kind of got my heart set on some guy who wears spandex and crawls on buildings." So she says, "Well, how do I get a hold of Spider-Man?" Well, then she hires a skywriter. And it says, so the skywriter says, "Spider-Man, meet me at the place of our first date." And there's one humorous moment where someone says, "Spider-Man, who date him?" So Spidey figures out that the first date reference means the gun dealer Emo Greco, where that the cat was doing business with. That's where they first met. So he figures that out, and he meets the cat there, and they do a little. They do a little. And the cat tells him that, "Hey, I really want to go straight. I think you're a hip dude, cool dude, and I love you, and I want to do right by you or whatever, and I got to go straight. I'm going to go straight." Spider-Man says, "No way, you got to go to jail first, woman." Well, she didn't really take too hot, but she tells him that the painting she stole was stolen from a mobster who had stolen it in the first place. And she says, "Well, that's who I rob. I rob rich people. I rob thieves. I rob scumbags." Kind of like Robin Hood. I kind of like Sly Cooper. I mean, if who Sly Cooper was.
No,
Sly Cooper, who's a video game or whatever. It was Sly Cooper and the Thieves Raccoonus. Hey, do you guys out there know Sly Cooper? Spencer played all 3 of those games.
No, I don't.
Whatever. I wasted my time. I thought you were a video game. I thought you were a video game.
Never played Sly Cooper. I know Sly Stallone. That's about it.
Sly Cooper. Boy, playing a Sly Stallone must have been fun. Oh,
Adrian!
So she says, "I only steal from evil rich people," and she gets away, but she leaves Spider-Man the painting and a note to meet him at this Halloween party that's being held by the mobster that she stole the painting from. Well, Spidey takes the painting to Jean DeWolf, and he says, "Yeah, who is this guy?" And she says, "Well, he's a mobster, and you stay away from that party." And Spider-Man says, "Well, yeah, of course I will." So Black Cat shows up. She's looking for Spider-Man. Can't find Spider-Man, but it turns out he's dressed as a Jawa. Anyway, the Black Cat decides to go up to the mobster, says, "Hey, I stole your painting." The mobster breaks out his goons. There's fights and shooting and everything like that. And they chase the mobster outside where Captain DeWolf and her crew are waiting, and they raid the place. And the bad guys are all arrested. And Spidey and the Black Cat go up to the rooftop and decide to kiss. And that is the end of part 1.
Is that their first kiss? I'm trying to think. Did she kiss her in the other issues?
Well, yeah, she. I think when they when they met for the first time, she planted a wet one on him and took him by surprise. I don't know if this is the first time he openly reciprocated or not. Yeah. So anyway, but that was the story.
That was a good issue. I still remember it to this day. I liked it a lot.
Unfortunately, things fall apart in 227, the next issue. Right. She just feels she can't go straight, and that's when she goes off the pier into the water, and Spidey thinks she's dead until she shows up at the end of Peter Parker, Amazing Spider-Man number 75, and then we get launched in the Owl Octopus War and an all-time classic Spider-Man story. Do
you think Roger Stern owes a lot of credit for this popularity of the Black Cat? Do you think those first 2 appearances were okay? This one set it on a course for 30 plus years of her being a supporting cast.
Well, you could. First of all, Wolfman created her.
Wolfman did a great job creating her.
Wolfman created her. Stern was a good writer. Stern, kind of made her that a moral foil. You can't help but like her, but you just know that she's no good for him. And
there are comparisons to Catwoman. Catwoman works really well with Batman, and this is his Catwoman.
Yeah, the comparisons are unavoidable. The thing is, the Black Cat was originally supposed to be a Spider-Woman villain when Marv Wolfman was writing Spider.
I remember that.
And it was supposed to be an entirely different character, but it was called the Black Cat. So, but anyway, when he went to Spider-Man, he brought her to Spider-Man, kind of gave her a makeover, and she became what she became. Yeah. But yeah, Stern did a good story. It was, and people wanted to see her again. And then that led Mantlo to resurrecting her, and the rest is history.
Where do you want to go now? Marvel Team Up, Spec? Where would you like?
No, let's go to Spec.
Okay. Spec number 64, the first appearance of Cloak and Dagger.
First Cloak and Dagger.
Bill Mantlo, Ed Hannigan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's actually
great,
pretty neat cover.
I was just gonna say the Spider-Man logo is dripping because it's wet. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I was a kid, I thought that was me because when I bought this, when we went through. What?
Dripping?
Well, I'm getting there. When I bought this at the grocery store, we were unloading the groceries, and this was in the grocery bag, and the book got wet. So I have raindrops on this issue in my collection, and it kind of fits with it with the logo dripping because I got it wet. All right, let's see.
Wow, that was a lot. That was a long way to go for that one.
I know. You even interrupted midway. Didn't even let me tell my story. If I did that for you, actually, I do that for you.
Enigma, the hell I do. What
am I talking about in chat? I'm pulling up this on Marvel Unlimited, which
man, I really
wish they would update the spec on Unlimited.
Yeah, I was.
So I can read through more of that.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I was thinking I was going through there and I saw image not available, and I thought, oh crap, it's not going to be on here, but it was. But yeah, this is the first appearance of Cloak. And folks, this is a really good time for Spectacular Spider-Man. The early 1980s, when Stern was writing Amazing and Bill Mantlo was writing Spectacular, was a terrific period of time. It was they were both good writers. They were both telling good stories. They had a good handle on the character. It was, it was a good time.
And this is hysterical. I remember when I was a kid, I'm like, that Dazzler or Dagger, Dazzler too. That Dagger costume is very revealing, and it wasn't until recently that I realized that the cut of her costume is like a dagger. It's like a sword. It's like a. Did you ever notice that?
Well, I don't know.
That is. Revealing costume.
Excuse me, folks.
What?
Oh yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah,
I had to check out Dagger.
Okay.
I guess you're right.
Yeah, I never guessed that.
But
you,
no,
you watched the television series Cloak and Dagger?
Oh hell no.
I tried the pilot. It was not my thing.
I mean,
It's also
I
on
didn't.
Freeform. You and I are way too old for that network.
Well, I was about it. It
We're not
probably
a teenage.
Cloak and Dagger would probably have to be a darker. I mean, they've got a very weird relationship.
Yeah.
And they're both born out of horrible experiments. They're both very damaged people.
Yes.
I just don't see it. They're not typical Disney characters, but again, I never watched the show, so I don't know. Boy, Enigma 2K99 never liked the black cat.
Enigma, well, why did you not like the black cat? She's almost universally loved. I don't know.
Well, the thing is, though, it depends on when you catch her. Because if you caught her when Al Milgrom was writing her in Spectacular, or when Dan Slott decided to make her a crime lord, you can't wait for her to be killed off. But anyway, Cloak and Dagger. Spider-Man is swinging through town, and who's doing the art on this? Is it Hannigan?
Hannigan, yes.
Yes, Hannigan. Great art. I mean, the first page just really sets the mood. You just kind of look at, just snapshots of street life in New York. So Spider-Man's webbing through town, and he hears this guy cry for help. And it turns out that it's a guy saying, I was a pharmacist and I used to peddle illegal drugs and I did some horrible things with these drugs and experimented on people, but I didn't know it could do that. And he says, Spider-Man, I'll give myself up. Just, he's obviously running for something. Well, then Spider-Man's spider sense goes off, and it turns out that it's Cloak and Dagger. Excuse me. And obviously they've come to make him pay the bill for what he did to them. Mm-hmm. So after, let's see here. Anyway, so Spider-Man tussles with Cloak a little bit, falls into it, and gets in is in the darkness. Dagger throws her daggers of light at this guy, and it freezes his blood, and it kills him. And so Spider-Man gets loose of Cloak and, decides that he's, is really offended at this idea that they did this. And so he did. But anyway, so Cloak and Dagger get away. And so he decides to do a little research on this guy and finds out that he was a chemist for the mob. And what had happened was the mob had taken They'd lured in a bunch of runaways, kids who show up in New York from Kansas who hate mom and dad and everything like that. And they're looking for a new life and they get promised all kinds of, crazy stuff. And, so these mobsters then took them to the old abandoned hospital on Ellis Island. And they experimented on them. They were trying to come up with a new concoction, a new street drug. And it turned out to be toxic and killed everybody except two. Ty and Tandy. Three, Mr. Negative. Because even though we don't see him, we see a bunch of dead kids and we always see Ty and Tandy get away, but apparently Martin Lee is hanging out there too somewhere. He must have just kind of slipped and he must have gone to the bathroom or something. They retroactively wrote the Mr. Negative's origin into this as well.
I totally forgot that. That's funny.
So anyway, so that's how they got their powers. And I'm assuming that the reason they survived, they explain later that the reason they survived is because they had latent mutant genes or something like that.
Something.
Is that how they survived?
They had a book called The Mutant Misadventures of Cloak and Dagger, I remember. So I think they were implied they were mutants at one point. Yeah, they were in Dark X-Men too. I remember that. So
anyway, so Cloak and Dagger now are gathering all the old mobsters and bringing them to the old hospital. Because I remember going to Ellis Island in the early 90s, and they had rehabbed the Great Hall, which was open, I think, at this time. The Great Hall was open. But I think even though I went several years later, I think the hospital was still closed. And I don't know if they've rehabbed the hospital or not and put it on the tour. But anyway, so the old Ellis Island Hospital was abandoned at this time. So that's where the mobsters were. That's where Cloak and Dagger take these guys and they're going to kill them. So but Spider-Man gets there, and of course, in the midst of Spider-Man doing his self-righteous monologuing, the bad guys get loose. They grab Cloak or Dagger and threaten to kill her. But then between Spider-Man and Cloak's, then fights him and drives him into Cloak's cloak, and they get all scared. And then they see a light at the end of the tunnel. They think, aha, we'll go to that light. We'll get away from Cloak. It turns out the light is right in front of a window, 5 stories up. They all go down, and jump out the window, and they all go splat. So
Cloak and Dagger, murderous, man, they're rough.
The bad guys had it coming, but Spidey's kind of a little moralistic. So he gives them a little speech, and basically they said, well, we did what we had to do. And, Spider-Man, since this is our, that since a whole fanfare was made introducing us in this issue, we're on the cover and everything, you're going to see more of us. You're going to see a lot more of us. Even when you don't want to see us, we're going to pop up in your comic from time to time. Even when Dan Slott is doing you 30-something years later, we're going to turn up. Excuse me. So, but anyway.
I thought they were. Go ahead.
First appearance of Cloak and Dagger.
I thought they were visually cool when I first saw them. I went on and collected their miniseries and their regular series. I always liked their relationship. Did you like them instantly? No. How come?
I read it for Spider-Man. It's like they were just another couple of villains. They were visually interesting.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any particular affection for them.
I just thought they were cool. I thought they had a cool story. It was
you were young then when they came out.
I was, and that's probably my attachment to them still.
So
yeah,
but anyway, so that's Spec 24.
That's another good issue for this month. We've got. Let me go back. What else we got?
We got 2 more this month. We got Marvel Team Up 115, and we got Marvel Fanfare.
And don't forget Super Stories 57.
Got that up. I've got that up as well.
Okay. Well, you want to do Team Up?
Yeah, we can do Team Up. Okay,
Team Up 115. It's Spider-Man and Thor, written by DeMatteis and Herb Trimpe.
The Menace of the Mindbender.
Here, real quick, on YouTube chat, Matt Bird says, Brad, have you seen Captain Marvel yet? I have, and I would give it a B. I like it. JR, have you seen Captain Marvel? No, going to see Captain Marvel?
No.
Going to see an Endgame?
Probably have to.
You might want to see Captain Marvel.
If Spencer wants to go, Spencer hasn't said anything about it yet.
Stay after the credits. Yeah.
Anyway, so
yeah. I liked it. I would put it on the same lines as the Ant-Man series. Not my favorite, but still an enjoyable picture. So, yeah. Marvel Team Up.
Marvel Team Up. I watched a lot of internet trolls complaining about it.
Oh my gosh, that's awful. What they did.
But Brie Larson didn't help herself either.
Well, I thought she was pretty good in the.
Some people. Yeah, but some people, when they get a microphone stuck in their face, they they don't know they not exactly the wisest things come out of their mouths.
That's true in general. Oh, look, Marvel Team Up 115 is on Marvel Unlimited. Very good. We can look at this. I'm loading. It's some. Oh, there you go. The Mindbender. Herb Trimpe, well known for his Hulk run. Also did the first appearance of Wolverine back in Hulk 181.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah, who would have known? Who would have known? My brother had those issues. He was a big Hulk fan.
Yep.
And so he had those Wolverine issues. And who would have thought?
Much respect to Herb Trimpe. Never really been a big fan of Herb Trimpe. I really liked Sal Buscema taking over for Herb Trimpe on the Hulk. However, a viewer of this show thought it would be cool to send me a Herb Trimpe autographed Spec 99. And I appreciate that. I have that in my collection. So I much respect to the Trimpe, Mr. Trimpe, who's passed away since. He also did G.I. Joe #1. I remember he did that book. Yeah. So
was he one of the ones who he was a longtime loyal Marvel staffer, I think.
He was. The story of him is I think Dick Falco kept him around in the 90s. He was doing the Fantastic Four Unlimited book.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he went on to teach some college classes, I think, on art. I could be wrong, but I think that's a little bit of his history. I know his daughter, I'm in I forget what group I'm in on Facebook, but his daughter it was selling some Hulk 181s to make a little bit of money because she had some of those in her collection.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, it's kind of sad that some people were reduced to doing things like that. And
yeah.
I think he got fired by Marvel, didn't he? I mean, when they were cutting a whole bunch of people, you know,
yeah,
I mean, it was just when they were
in the 90s when Marvel was near bankruptcy, I think he was let go after working there since the 70s, which is sad.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you know,
anyway.
It's the legacy of Ron Perlman when he owned it. So,
yes.
Anyway, Spider-Man and Thor. And, you know, since it's written by J.M. DeMatteis, you already know that you're going to get some ham-fisted dialogue and you know, and none too subtle political allusions. So
hold on a second. We have J.M. DeMatteis waiting to join the line. Let me. He's going to come on and chew you out. I like DeMatteis.
He was a good writer. I mean, he was a good writer. I like with his run on Spec Spider-Man there post Clone Saga.
Yeah.
I thought it was excellent, and I thought he had a good handle on Norman Osborn. But it was the Clone Saga.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean.
No, I was about to say, but the Clone Saga stuff, and you know, some of the other stuff, it seemed like he went off the deep end. You know, it just way too much sermonizing, moralizing, and trying to get you to feel sorry for supervillains because they didn't get hugs. So
I don't think I've ever shared this story on the podcast before. Maybe 10 years ago, I interviewed J.M. DeMatteis, and like on a weekend, and then the following week, my job as a reporter, they decided to put me in lockup behind bars for the MDA telethon or something.
Someone had to bail you out.
Somebody had to bail me out. So I went on my Facebook page and I said, hey, can you get me out of jail? I got to raise like a couple $100. And I, on my phone, I had like an email or something like an app, and I could see who was donating. I eventually hit my $200 mark. And of all people, J.M. DeMatteis threw a couple bones in my pot because we were friends on Facebook, and he did that. So thank you 10 years ago for getting me out of jail, J.M. DeMatteis.
Oh man, so you're hardly an unbiased commentator.
I am a very biased.
You've been bought. I mean, you've been bought, paid for.
No, I got bailed out by J.M. DeMatteis, and George drank with the kingpin. Those are some stories that we have for our podcast. Yeah.
So anyway, this story, does Thor turn into Don Blake anymore? I mean, what
he does? He does not. Don Blake. I think they got separated.
Or was Don Blake the personality that Odin created for Thor to punish him when he was sent down? I mean, it wasn't so much a secret identity thing anymore. It was how Odin was punishing him when he exiled him. He gave him this mortal boy. So I don't know.
I never really understood and I haven't read a lot of early Thor, but I didn't understand the swapping into the human. And they did feel like two people, but anyway, I didn't understand the Don Blake. I'm much happier Thor is Thor, Yeah.
Anyway, so this issue starts off with Dr. Don Blake operating on an old woman who was caught in the crossfire between the cops and some burglars. And in the observation deck, covering the story for the Bugle, is Peter Parker.
By the way, with modern healthcare laws, the HIPAA would not allow a reporter in an operating room anywhere near this with HIPAA laws. What in the world?
Well, HIPAA is awful. I mean,
you can't do anything.
No, I mean, it's like it's like all of a sudden, like, for example, I'm a subscriber, through my job. And so but like my wife, all of a sudden her healthcare information vanished. I couldn't access any of her on Blue Cross or whatever. It's like, well, because of HIPAA. It's like, I'm the subscriber. I'm the one paying.
And I'm married to her.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, so Dr. Don Blake is operating on this old woman. Peter Parker is watching in the background. Anyway, into this hospital walks this big 7-foot tall guy, who he's clearly in disguise. He's kind of got a Claude Rains thing going on here, with the hat and the something wrapped around him, whatever. Anyway, he mind blasts this security guard. And this security guard turns all angry and hateful and, screw the world, whatever, which, believe me, is important later on. So this guy, the 7-foot guy starts making his way to the operating room and mind blasting people. And all of a sudden someone rips off his clothes and it's a giant pink fish. Giant pink fish man. And he is called...
No, he's called Maru the Mindbender.
Maru the Mindbender. So Maru the Mindbender wants this woman, wants this old woman. He calls her a black-hearted witch, and like he knows her and she's evil or whatever. And so Peter just needs to go change into Spider-Man. Okay, and this is not the point where he. This is not where we have a couple of botched references to Christopher Reeve in this story.
Oh, we do.
We're both. Where is this? Where is that? I know that Spider-Man said it. Maybe it hasn't happened yet. But anyway, so Spider-Man, he goes away, changes into Spider-Man, and he starts fighting the Pink Fish Man. But then the Pink Fish Man zaps him, and Spider-Man says, well, wait a minute, Spider-Man starts going crazy too, because he's all hateful and everything. And I never want to be a superhero anyway. And all you people can just die for all I care. And I'm going to web swing away. Well, Dr. Don Blake sees this, and it's like, well, I got to do something. Now there's this crazy big, when there's a 7-tall pink fish man running around in your hospital, that calls for drastic measures.
Call security.
This is
call the Avengers.
This is health. This is managed healthcare gone wild. So Don Blake grabs his big stick, grabs a stick, gets his hand, gets a firm grip on his stick, and then he starts pounding his stick into the, and he changes into Thor. So then Thor starts fighting the Pink Fish Man. So Spider-Man, the Pink Fish Man gets away. Spider-Man has changed into Peter Parker, and he's still all pissed off and everything and mad and angry. And, why do I risk my lives for people and everything? Well, then all of a sudden, we see on TV that Maru, the 7-foot tall Pink Fish Man, is now flying through Manhattan on a jet ski. And he's zapping people and he's making them all go crazy. Well, at the same time, Dr. Don Blake is talking to this old woman, because he saved her life through surgery or whatever, and she's got amnesia. She can't remember anything. And then she makes a reference. She makes a reference to the Pink Fish Man. And so Don Blake has to, he says, well, I got to change into Thor. I got to grab my stick. I got to play with my stick again, and change into Thor and fight the Pink Fish Man. Well, anyway, what happens, Pink Fish Man, what Pink Fish Man does is when he zaps you, he brings out your inner self or your secret self or your second self. And so like when he zapped Peter, he brought out all Peter's anxieties about, being Spider-Man and things of that nature. And when he zaps Thor, he brings out Don Blake. So it's now Don Blake's mind in Thor's body. And of course, this is all, just way too much for Blake, and he can't handle it. And Fishman knocks him out, and they're on top of the World Trade Center. And Maru, the Pink Fish Man, says that I'm going to throw Thor off the top of the World Trade Center unless you bring me that crazy old woman. And you better do it now. And if you don't bring me, I'm going to throw Thor off the World Trade Center, and then I'm going to destroy Manhattan Island. Well, at the same time, the old woman is starting to get her memory back and remembering who she is. Peter Parker is still walking around, feeling sorry and angry and bitter and hateful and everything. But then he starts to come out as he snaps out of it, goes to World Trade Center so he can fight Maru the Fishman, and then that's when JMD Mateus starts kicking into gear. So Spider-Man confronts the Pink Fishman, and instead of saying something clever like say hello to Charlie the Tuna for me, Fishman, or something like, here, after this punch, you'll be served up at Long John Silver's or something or whatever, battered and beaten. But no, Spider-Man.
That was good. That was good.
But Spider-Man starts to moralize and says, we human types are more than just fragmented hunks of self that can be torn apart piggly wiggly. We've also got a little something called soul, and so he's fighting Maru. That nebulous something that unites all those fragments, helps us transcend our fears, rise above our dark desires. Well, not only has Maru the Pink Fishman heard enough of this crap, so has the reader. And so at this time, you're glad Maru punches the lights out of Spider-Man because you just want him to stop. I mean, who superheroes, ramble and talk during fights, but it just gets this moralizing is a little bit too much. Well, now I forgot to mention that Thor during this whole thing never talks like Chris Hemsworth. I mean, so like if you watch the Thor movies and you get an old Thor comic book, it's like, what the hell? Why is he talking like he walked out of a Shakespeare play? And he uses weird words. What are some of the weird words that Thor uses? Stuff that nobody uses.
That was a turn off when I was a kid reading Thor. It just took me out of it. I'm glad modern Thor does not do that. I don't know.
I mean, you start reading and then you run into Thor's dialogue and it just brings the whole story to a screeching halt. Yeah. Thou hast come wrecking havoc. For what purpose even I might not glean. I mean, and so even is E''E''N. I mean, Thor doesn't even say even. How do you say E''E''N? I don't know. Ian. Ian, but whate'er thy vile motives, whate'er thy powers, thou shalt not long stand 'gainst. Now he's talking like somebody from the hood. 'Gainst the thunder of God and his enchanted hammer. Now we've got, so here's the thing. We've got this big blonde dude who talks who talks absolutely spacey. And wants to hit you with his enchanted hammer. It sounds like the guy's on drugs. For one,
Venkman says you can blame Kirby for Thor's speech patterns.
I think if it's interesting, Venkman. I think
Stan Lee was writing it. I don't know.
Stan takes credit for that. Actually, if you read. I hate Screwball. I hated Screwball too. I have no idea what Screwball had to do with this, but Enigma, I hated Screwball too. Now I think if you read the original history of what do you call it? It wasn't History of Marvel Comics, was it? But anyway, when Stan wrote the origin of Marvel Comics, I think something. Like that. But anyway, so he talked
about Son of Origins, yeah,
Son of Origins was the next one. So, but the origin of Marvel Comics. And actually, Thor talked normal. I mean, basically, Thor talked like Don Blake when he was first created. And then Stan decided to slip the Shakespearean stuff in. So
Enigma is playing PS4 Spider-Man, and he just went up in the Screwball level. That explains it. It had nothing to do with what we were talking about. But yes, we all hate Screwball.
Wait. So he's double tasking, huh?
He's multitasking. Multitasking, yes. Okay.
So anyway, so Pink Fishman has had enough of Spider-Man demateusing, and he knocks him off the World Trade Center. Well, Thor / Don Blake, gets his wits together, and then he starts to monologue. And he says, man or man God, it makes no difference. All the fragments of our identity are part of one indivisible whole. Don Blake and Thor aren't two separate entities in conflict. They're reflections of the same eternal soul.
Man, deep.
So anyway, although there's a Thor thinks Spider-Man's dead, because he saw him go over the World Trade Center. And he's got an interesting little line, though his puckish manner ofttimes vexed me, still was he a warrior supreme, long will I mourn his passing. But Spider-Man's not dead. And all of a sudden then, the old woman who now has got her memory back, she comes flying on a jet ski. And she transforms into another pink, except I think she's purple.
Yeah.
She's
she's
purple fish creature.
Dahlia
the shape changer, leader of the rebel forces on Chiron. Now, boys and girls, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the original TV series Star Trek, which is one of the most classic series of all time, and you should watch that before you watch any of that Next Generation crap. Okay, Next Generation, but it's not real Star Trek. It's not real Star Trek.
What is Discovery? Have you watched Discovery?
Oh hell no, no! I watched that free episode on YouTube.
It's good,
and I had to turn it off twice and then resume it because I couldn't stand the Michael Burnham character, how they were making her where she was such a superhero, and she was right. And there was this, and there's a science officer who disobeys Pike's orders, and he gets killed. So stupid. But anyway, so she's Dahlia the shape changer, and she's of the planet Chiron, which I'm thinking already, that sounds familiar.
Really?
Well, I'll get to that. Anyway, so she starts talking about this conflict on her planet between Maru's people, who were called the Haifs, the HIFS, smug, supercilious philosophers or whatever, who couldn't bother with the common folks. And then the laborers, who were her people, the Haif-Nas, the haves and the have-nots.
Oh, Lord.
How much ham can you wrap around that fist?
Oh, my.
The Haifs and the Haif-Nas.
Wow.
I mean, this
is helping prove your point of Marvel team up, is what this is really helping it.
I don't know if it's as bad as Jerry Conway and the Man Killer, where, she would pause in her dialogue to hate men. But so she starts telling this story about the Haifs and the Haif-Nas and how they got into a war and they destroyed their planet. Okay.
I'm getting hit over the head.
So it's just the two of them left and they destroyed their planet. Okay. Folks, and so basically what has happened is Maru, the fish man, has been chasing Dahlia, the shape changer, through the universe.
I now get the Star Trek reference. Go ahead. I know what episode you're talking about.
The Star Trek Season 3 episode, I'm with you, JR. Star Trek begins and ends with the original series. Vink Man. So you got me so excited. I knocked my Vink Man. I like you.
Yeah.
So...
Okay, let's talk about One Side of the Face.
There was a third season episode of Star Trek called "Let That Be Your Last Battlefield," which
good episode.
But it's talk about moralizing. Basically, it was about the one guy, this alien. They were from the planet Chiron, spelled differently, but still Chiron.
He picked that up too. Oh, I didn't know that.
He stole the name.
Oh.
And it's Frank Gorshin, who's the one guy,
the Riddler from Batman,
legendary Frank Gorshin. But it turns out these aliens, they're black and white. They're black on one side and they're white on the other.
Yeah.
And it turns out that there's this discrimination because the cop who's chasing this criminal, he's black on the right side and white on the left, and the other guy's black on the left side and white on the right, so therefore they think they're superior. Yeah. And so you're sitting there going, oh my God. Well, they get back to Chiron. They find out that the people of Chiron killed themselves and destroyed their planet. It's like, oh boy.
I've never connected that. So the planet is the same name, only spelled differently in this book, as opposed to the Star Trek episode.
Yep, and
are you happy to tie Star Trek into Spider-Man legitly now?
Well, it's everything always goes back to Star Trek. I mean, everything. It's like life is 6 degrees of Star Trek. Everything goes back to Star Trek.
That's funny.
So. But anyway,
That's funny.
so Dahlia the shape changer and Maru the pink fish man, Dahlia the purple fish person, and Maru the pink fish man get in a fight. And they've got some, and Maru's got a gun. The gun overloads, it fries them, turns them into pink mist. Okay. Well, it turns out that's not the end of the story. This story continues in Marvel Team Up number 115, Spider-Man and Valkyrie. Oh. And what happens is the pink mist takes over Valkyrie's body, and she doesn't look anything like Tessa Thompson. Does not really. I mean, maybe if Tessa went in for a bleach job from head to toe, you know, she might look like Valkyrie, but does not look anyway. So like the evil pink mist possesses Valkyrie. But what's notable about this story is Thor. I never realized that Thor was so hot for Valkyrie. I mean, you know, he said her beauty be untouched by the years, her skin so soft, her hair like silk, you know. And then let's see here, Brunhilde to be with thee again, to hold thee. And so anyway, Thor is just, so Spider-Man's running and fighting from the pink mist, and Thor is getting all hot and heavy and on Broomhilda there. So
and Spider-Man makes a reference to Black Cat from the issue that we were just talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. See Amazing Spider-Man number 227. He says it's Valkyrie. Maybe she's chasing down some blue meanie, but better yet, maybe she's got a couple of minutes to sit and talk. I'm still down about the Black Cat. I could use a little conversation right about now.
Wow. I didn't catch all that because I was whipping through this one. But anyway, just so Spider-Man's like fighting for his life because see the purple mist, the pink mist, it takes over Valkyrie, then it takes over Valkyrie's sword. And the sword is flying all around with Spider-Man on it. And he finally gets Thor to stop paying attention to Valkyrie's body and smash the sword. So anyway, but next issue, Spider-Man and Wolverine.
Marvel team. I remember that.
So
that was I think that was the first time I ever saw Wolverine. Marvel Team Up 118. Yeah. Okay, next issue is, what do we want to do?
Well, we only got one. Oh, Marvel Fanfare.
You want to do Fanfare? Marvel Fanfare number 1.
We'll do Fanfare, and then we'll do Spidey.
Marvel Fanfare number 1, if I remember correctly, was a direct-to-comic store book, like what Moon Knight was, and like Dreadstar, like creator-owned stuff, like Epic.
Yes, it was. In fact, I'm trying to think. I thought there was a nice little comic explanation by Al Milgram himself explaining Marvel Fanfare. But the whole idea right now, at this time, comics were selling for 60 cents.
Yes.
All right. I mean, and
how much does this one go for?
But Marvel Fanfare,
$1.25
for $1.25.
Whoa, this book better be good.
The explanation was it's on better quality paper, it's direct market only, it's top flight stories, and you'll see how top flight a story this is. It's top flight stories, so we know you'll want to pay more for this.
But this is more pages too, right?
Yeah, but it's not one story, because it's like you get like a Spider-Man story. Oh, here it is. Here's a little editorial.
Okay, let me hear it.
All right. I had this idea for a new comic, which you really dedicated comic fans could go for, something we could charge extra money for. Well, at least he's honest. At least he's honest. So we put together the book you now hold in your hot little hands. Great stories, great artwork, terrific printing on paper we normally reserve for our covers. As a result, the price is higher. That's why we designed this comic to be direct sales. We know that you discriminating readers are willing to pay more if you get a quality product, and we think Marvel Fanfare qualifies.
Wow.
You keep on thinking that. So anyway, this Marvel Fanfare was an anthology series. And so Spider-Man made a handful of appearances, but so did the Hulk, so did Thor, Iron Man. In fact, I believe there's a two-part Marvel Fanfare where Iron Man faces off against none other than Dr. Octopus.
Oh yeah.
So
I don't think I ever read that.
So anyway, this story starts off. Let's see who's the did you do the Jim Nova? Who's the?
I've got
Chris
Chris Claremont and Michael Golden, who had a good run on Uncanny X-Men together. Okay. No, wait a minute. Did Golden? No, that was Paul something. I'm not sure Golden had much of a run. I remember Michael Golden had a poster that you could mail off in the back of a comic around this time that had the whole Marvel universe running to the right. And I'm like, oh, I want that poster so bad. I think he sells it as prints now at cons. But anyway, go ahead. So Spider-Man the Savage Land, huh? I never liked those.
I never liked the Savage Land.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the story starts out at Warren Worthington's estate, because Warren Worthington, as you know, is Angel.
He's got some money too.
Yeah, Angel. Not the Angel who died of AIDS in Rent. Okay, don't want to get your angels confused here.
Wow.
That's a Broadway musical reference, boys and girls.
I didn't. I kind of got it.
Okay. Anyway, so it starts out with a half-naked woman, which is Warren Worthington's girlfriend, who's just walking around in a bathing suit. Okay, and then there's she's met by this other woman, and Worthington, the Angel himself, is flying around mostly naked himself. Okay, well, he finally comes to land to find out what this clothed woman wants. There's a clothed woman and there's a mostly naked woman. Okay, so the clothed woman wants him to help her find Carl Lycos. Well, because she loved Carl Lycos. Well, it turns out
that Carl Sauron.
Yeah. Now, Sauron is half man, half dinosaur. He's a dinosaur man. You know, how cool is that? Half man, half dinosaur. Do you know any other cool character who's a half man, half dinosaur? This Sauron kicks ass.
Starts with an S also, I think, somewhere. Stegosaurus.
Half man, half dinosaur.
It doesn't work when he's not on the show. That's too bad. Yeah.
I know, it just doesn't. So anyway, but this is kind of funny. Basically, the aim, you know, she loves this Carl Lycos. She wants Warren Worthington to help her find him. And basically, he says that's an ignorant idea. That is an ignorant ass idea. He said, look, you know, because basically, I guess he found his humanity again and disappeared. And Warren is saying, basically, maybe he's made peace with himself, you know, and we should just leave him alone. Why don't you just leave him alone? And of course, because I love him. You know, it's all about you, you know, and so, you know, that would have been what I would have said if I were Warren Worthington. I said, you know what? It ain't about you, you know, maybe it's about him, you know, but of course, you know, mostly naked chick sitting there by this other chick, you know, gives him the batted eyes or whatever. So he decides to do it. Well, let's see here.
By the way, in YouTube chat, it's Michael Reed says, where did the Savage Lands originate? Surprised the MCU hasn't used it. That would make it like a fun Jurassic Park Marvel movie, wouldn't it? With dinosaurs? Who would be... Put Wolverine in there. That'd be fun.
Yeah. And have half man, half dinosaur. And
have Stegron show up. That'd be fun.
You know, one, Stegron being a Spider-Man villain. Well, I don't know. Would he first appeared? When did Stegron first appear? He first appeared in a Marvel team up, so maybe he wouldn't be considered a Spider-Man villain. But
don't you think a MCU Savage Land film would be fun? I do. I think that'd be fun.
I think a lot of people would. Strangely enough, right now. Well, of course, I was about to say the Marvel Cinematic Universe has tried to steer closer to Earth, but you know, then again, I just realized we have Thanos and we have Captain Marvel and we have green pointy-eared Skrulls now, so I guess not so much. I don't know. I think there'd be stylistically, people would be thinking, oh, you know, it's superheroes go to Jurassic Park and it wouldn't be really such a novelty. So, but I mean, it would be fun. But it'd almost be like you could put Star-Lord in the Savage Land. Now, wouldn't that be a good in joke?
Yeah.
With Chris Pratt.
Oh, that's funny. You could, couldn't you? Yeah, I think it originates from the X-Men though, like Neil Adams' run. I think.
So,
yeah.
There is a really good issue of Marvel Fanfare for where the Hulk fights the Blob and Anus the Untouchable.
Eunice. Anus the Untouchable. That's
okay. I could understand Anus being untouchable because I sure as hell wouldn't want to touch his anus.
My God.
Wait a minute, Vinkman, you retracted your message. What were you saying?
Oh,
you retracted his message.
Oh my
anyway,
God.
So the Daily Bugle, J. Jonah Jameson gets wind of Warren Worthington's trip to the Savage Land, and of course he wants pictures and he wants to send somebody who's been there before. Well, as you all know, boys and girls, Peter Parker, along with Jameson and Gwen Stacy, went to the Savage Land.
Man, did I not like that story.
Issues, I think 103 to 104. It was, I believe, the first issues of Amazing Spider-Man written by somebody other than Stan Lee.
Yeah.
I think Roy Thomas wrote those issues. But anyway, they went to the Savage Land. He met Kazar and everything like that. So anyway, so Peter Parker now is going on this trip to the Savage Land with Warren Worthington. Well, they come across some flying pterodactyls. Now, they don't call them pterodactyls. They call them something else, pterosaurs or whatever. But I'm sorry, they're flying dinosaurs. They're called pterodactyls. That's all I'm going to say. They're all going to be pterodactyls. Crashes into the airplane or crashes into the helicopter. The Angel flies away because the Angel can fly. Peter, makes a parachute out of his web shooters. They all get together. The three of them, they walk to this destroyed dome and they get attacked by a bunch of savages, and it turns out they get captured, and so they wake up. Spidey and Warren Worthington wake up and they're held prisoner. They're manacled down in front of this big machine, and there's the guy manning the machine is Brainchild.
By the way,
if you look at Brainchild,
I was just going to say, go ahead. You got it before I do.
Peter, you almost expect Spider-Man to say, "Hey, I met your brother, the Mindworm."
Exactly. He looks just like Mindworm. Yes.
Just like the Mindworm.
Just like
amazing,
Mindworm.
But he's called Brainchild. And so what he's going to do is he's going to zap them, and he's going to devolve them into their most rudimentary, primitive state. So what he does is he devolves Spider-Man into a big giant spider and Angel into something that flies.
Yeah.
And actually that is the end of that story of Marvel Fanfare. In Marvel Fanfare #1, you get a backup story with Daredevil, where Daredevil helps an old man who is a orphan Christmas Santa Claus or whatever, and he gets robbed, and Daredevil goes and beats them all up. So
Paul
Merry
Christmas is the penciler in that. And that's who I was trying to think the name that teamed up to Claremont. Paul Smith and the X-Men. You've also got a nice double page spread of by John Byrne of Spidey and the Silver Surfer.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, if you're willing to rip out the bulk of your comic, or why do they do that? Why do they do that? Do they expect you to say, "Oh, cool, look at this spread. I'll just take this comic that I paid twice what it was a regular comic is selling that I can only get in the direct market. I'm going to take it and I'm just going to rip out all the middle pages so I can have this cool 2-page spread." I don't get it.
So if memory serves, this story goes on, 6 more issues?
Well, Spider-Man's involvement ends in issue #2, and that's where Kazar comes and saves the day. And we meet Sauron in his human form, and again, Sauron half man, half dinosaur. Okay. Nothing cooler than that.
Yeah.
But Peter, Peter gets transferred back to Peter Parker. Angel gets transferred back to Angel. Angel and this chick decide to stay in the Savage Land, and the rest of the X-Men show up in issue #3. But Peter leaves after issue #2, and that's done.
For me, I didn't like this story as a kid. I mean, I didn't get it. What are your thoughts on it? I just don't like this story.
Spider-Man, and I don't like the Savage Land. I don't like Spider-Man in the Savage Land. It's like
Yeah.
Spider-Man going into outer space.
Yeah.
You know, Spider-Man doesn't belong there.
Yeah.
You know, it's a team up story. It's not even a Spider-Man story. It's a damn team up story.
Yeah.
It's got a stupid ass villain. You know, and Spider-Man doesn't even stay for the rest of the story. You know, I mean, he just takes off and leaves after. It's like, well, let's put Spider-Man in here in the first couple issues so people will buy it. You know, and then hopefully we'll get them hooked on this exorbitant price or this fancy ass paper that they can only get in the direct market. So, yeah, I didn't care for it either.
We're ending a long running title. Spidey Super Stories number 57, which I was sad that I found out this was the last issue.
Well, yeah, I had stopped buying Spidey Super Story. I bought the first couple of years when they came out, when they were first coming out in the comic book stores. And I'm just going to do a quick Google search here because I was about to make a statement and I want to make sure I'm right. The Electric Company. Yeah. And when did the Electric Company run?
They ended, I think, in the 81 or something. I could be wrong, but right when that show ended, this book ended too.
Well, that's what I was thinking, because for all of you, I mean, after all, Spider history is Spider history.
Yes.
So I would be remiss if I didn't explain a little bit about Spidey Super Stories.
And by the way, you're a little bit too old for that book. That is my age group's book. That Spider Electric Company got me hooked really on Spider-Man a lot.
Wow.
It did.
Wow.
I loved that show when I was a kid.
Well, it's funny. I mean, for all of you boys and girls out there, the Electric Company was a children's television workshop program that was envisioned as kind of the next step for education for children. Sesame Street would get them to learn their ABCs and their 1, 2, 3s. And then the Electric Company would start to actually teach them to read, put words together, letters together, and teach them to read. And about midway through, they reached a licensing deal with Marvel.
Yeah.
And it was the first live action Spider-Man
ever.
Yes. It wasn't Nicholas Hammond. It was the Electric Company. And Spider-Man would appear framed in a comic book, and he wouldn't talk. He would speak only in word balloons. And the whole idea was that, you know, you youngsters were learning to read by reading Spider-Man's word balloons. And, you know, he sounded like the adults in the Peanuts cartoon, wah, wah, you know, and Spider-Man. And concurrently, the Electric Company or the Children's Television Workshop and Marvel entered into agreement to produce this title called Spidey Super Stories, which was a very, very, very basic entry-level reading. Yeah. And so no dark stories. I mean, Spider-Man's origin is told in the first story. Uncle Ben is not even in it. We don't do sad in Spidey Super Stories. We don't do tragic in Spidey Super Stories. But you know, it served its purpose.
He's bit by, I don't even remember the Spidey Super Stories origin. He's bit by a spider and that's it?
He was still bit by a spider. But, you know, he just decided, oh, this is cool. I'll be a superhero, you know. But, you know, Marvel threw some real resources at this. This was not a half-ass effort. I mean, I think Romita Sr. did some covers.
Yes.
I think Jim Salicrup wrote some of the stories. I mean, they took this seriously. And really, it was a great idea. I mean, it was, you know, advertised. I mean, through all Spidey Super Stories ran for almost 5 years, and I think virtually every Marvel superhero appeared in it. So, you know, it would bring in, you know, it would expose kids to the entire Marvel universe.
Yeah.
And you know, it also would promote the Electric Company TV show for fans of Spider-Man.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia page, and this could be right, it could be wrong. It says ran 6 seasons, 780 episodes. If that's true, my goodness. It ran from 1971 until 1977, and then it was canceled. Wow. And it was canceled, but it ran in reruns because they've got a big library to rerun.
Mhm.
And I just had it up on my screen.
Yeah,
Here it is. It was canceled in 77, and it ran in reruns from 77 to 85. So
Mm.
Spidey Super Stories was going bi-monthly, if I remember correctly.
Mm.
And it was every other month, and Marvel was like, well, the show's canceled, we might as well get out of the comic. But I also remember, I don't know if you picked this up when you were younger, but there was an Electric Company magazine, like on the magazine rack, and in the back of the magazine was a Spider-Man story. So I picked that up. I still don't have the copies, but I remember the Electric Company magazine. There was a Muppet magazine. There was a Sesame Street magazine when I was a little kid. But I picked up the Electric Company magazine specifically because there was another Spider-Man story in the back of it.
Yeah, and see, old man loses his train of thought. The it's funny because when you talk about the Electric Company, again, there was some serious talent on that show.
Oh my gosh, Morgan Freeman alone.
Morgan Freeman as Easy Reader.
Rita Moreno.
And Rita Moreno. And even actually in some very early episodes, Bill Cosby.
Well, we don't talk about him.
Well, we don't talk about him anymore. No. He's a non-person. He's a non-person. But anyway, Morgan Freeman.
I just found the actor who was the very first live-action Spider-Man. His name was Danny Seagram. And I've been trying to get an interview with Danny Seagram. So if you're listening to this podcast and you have a contact for him, I found a convention that he was at, and the convention people have no idea how they got a hold of him because they can't give me any address or an email or anything. So Danny Seagram,
surely he's dead.
No,
that was 40 years ago.
He's not.
40 years ago.
I am clicking on his name. Dead. He's not dead. He was just at a convention. Are you dead? After this show, maybe. I don't know.
Well, it depends. It depends on who you ask.
Oh, my gosh.
But I feel like I'm one of the Walking Dead, though, since I've been married. I mean, it's like I feel that my body is just kind of walking around and my soul has long been sucked out. But anyway, that's another.
Michael Reed says Morgan Freeman for Robbie Robertson. I'm down with that. That's funny. Okay, take me through 57. We're wrapping up.
Anyway, the Electric Company, I just wanted to say, it was actually a very popular show.
Yeah.
But it got canceled because it wasn't merchandisable.
Like Sesame Street is. Yeah.
PBS said we don't want to pay as much money for it. Or basically PBS was cutting back and said, well, either cancel one of these shows or we're only going to do half of each show's run. And basically the Electric Company, because it didn't bring any merchandising revenue, was the one that got canceled. And eventually, after the show got canceled and was in reruns and Spidey Super Stories, it ran its course. But
I remember as a kid hating those PBS telethon. If you love Sesame Street, if you love Electric Company, please call in.
And if you don't call in the next 5 minutes,
we're going to kill Big Bird.
We're going to kill this cat right here. See this little kitty? I'm holding it by its tail. I'm going to kill this kitty, boys and girls, unless you get mom and dad to make a pledge of $30 a month for the next 12 months.
And the cat's name is Goose, and you'll get that if you understand Captain Marvel.
In return, you get this membership pin. But anyway,
yeah, I remember that.
So Spidey Super Stories. It's funny because you can't. When I went back and I was rebuilding my collection of Spider-Man comics, I could not find Spidey Super Stories in the back issue bin. They were almost impossible to find, and when I did find them, they were overpriced, and they're not on Marvel Unlimited. I'm assuming that's probably because of the licensing. They probably would have to.
I would agree. I would love a trade or something on this. I really need to rebuild. I don't have a complete run of. I have a near complete run of everything Spider-Man, but not this. I need to.
Yeah, it's Spidey Super Stories has been gone a long time, but old fans like us still talk about it. It was just kind of it wasn't for everybody, and it was so simplistic that once you got to a certain age, but it just like Brie Larson said, it wasn't for us, it wasn't for you. So Spidey Super Stories 57, we start out with an introduction to the White Tiger, because White Tiger guest stars. And then the story is the Trapster and the White Tiger. And I won't basically go through it. The Trapster tries to capture Spidey and the White Tiger. They fight the Trapster and beat him, and and then funny enough, they successfully defeat the Trapster, and then the White Tiger goes, well, I get time to give up my tiger charms. Here, I'm really Hector Ayala or whatever, and I'm not a superhero no more. Okay. And for all of you who, this is how educational and how basic it was. When the White Tiger says, I'm glad you're with me, amigo, then we have a little box. Amigo is Spanish for friend.
See.
Amigo is Spanish for friend. It's almost like the password is. So anyway, then you get another Meet the Beast, where we have a one-page discussion of the Beast, because the Beast is in a future story here. Hank McCoy was a scientist. He tried to figure out what causes superpowers. The experiment changed him into the Beast.
Yeah.
The Beast is very strong and can jump very high. He can't change back to Hank McCoy, but he doesn't mind. I think the real origin story was a wee bit more complex than that.
Yeah.
Then again, this is the Electric
Company. But it introduces you to other characters for little kids.
Yeah. So, the middle story here is basically the Electric Company characters in an adventure with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Come on, page. And then the third story is Look Out for the Leapfrog. Spider-Man and Mary Jane and J. Jonah Jameson are going to an art show. The Beast is there signing autographs, and then Leapfrog comes and steals a bunch of paintings. The heroes, the Beast and Spider-Man get to his lair, and the Leapfrog says, I got the jump on those heroes. That's why I'm the Leapfrog.
Adorable.
Superheroes make me hopping mad. So they fight the Leapfrog. Let's see if there's any. Why is he called the Leapfrog? The Beast asks. He's a jumpy guy, says Spider-Man.
That's cute. That's
what
cute.
is it with Leapfrog? Spider-Man asks. The Beast says he has his ups and downs. So anyway, they capture.
This is like Spider-Man with dad jokes.
Yes, really bad dad jokes.
Yeah.
But anyway, then we have the last page is the wit of the web slinger, which are more simplistic jokes. Except this time it doesn't involve Spider-Man. It involves a couple of Electric Company characters. What is it? One asks, what is in the middle of Texas? Well, land, of course. Oh. What is in the middle of Texas? An X.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
also George.
And that is Spidey Super Stories. The back cover, Spidey waving bye to the cast of the Electric.
Look at it. It says to read what I was just talking about in the magazine.
Yep, follow the adventures. It was basically Spider-Man saying goodbye to Spidey Super Stories.
Yeah.
So, and an era ended, boys and girls.
57 issues of that.
Wait a minute, Larson shade. Wait a minute, damn JR with the Larson shade. When did I shade Larson?
Eric Larson?
Eric Larson. Did I shade Eric Larson?
No, I don't remember that at all. Michael Reed, what are you talking about? Okay, so I think that's the last one. I think that's the last one.
That is the last one for. That is the last one.
So I will ask it. Was March 1982 a good month for Spider-Man?
Well, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, we did have a stupid Marvel team-up story, but every month was a stupid Marvel team-up story.
Yeah.
We had a stupid, overpriced Marvel Fanfare story.
Right.
But also had Roger Stern and a great Black Cat story. Right. And we also had, like I said, I've never been a big fan of Cloak and Dagger, but it is Cloak and Dagger's first appearance.
Yeah.
And it's, again, Mantlo and Hannigan. And it's a very good era for Spider-Man. So, cool. So yes, it was a good month.
Yeah, there you go. All right, let's take a little bit. Let's leave the stream still going. I need to go get a cough drop. Okay. Do you want to talk to the fans while I go get a cough drop and use the restroom?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if the fans want to talk. No,
All
I'm
right.
fine. I'm fine.
Okay.
I mean, even though I'm old, I don't have as weak a bladder as you obviously do.
All right.
So,
I will be back in 5. Okay.
all right.
All
I'll
right.
sit here and twiddle my thumbs.
Talk to the fans, JR. There's now 13 of them, the highest number we've ever had, and I'm leaving them.
The Larson shake. Brie Larson. That's
Brie Larson.
Brie Larson.
All right, JR,
Well, yeah,
I'll be back.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Brie gets up there and says that Wrinkle in Time wasn't made for white men, and well, no, it wasn't. But that's, I remember when Wrinkle in Time came out, I saw some of the reviews, and it said Wrinkle in Time is not a very good movie, but that doesn't matter. And that told me all I needed to know about Wrinkle in Time. But anyway, JR, what's your favorite color in food? Is this like Monty Python and the Holy Grail or something, and the troll asking me at the bridge, what is your favorite color? Favorite color, green. You should have known that. Favorite food, spaghetti. Absolutely. I will eat as much spaghetti as the Hulk in one sitting. A good friend of mine just acquired most of the first year of Spidey Super Stories. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder what he paid and where he got them. Earning pledges through intimidation, priceless. I don't know if PBS still does that or not, but boy, that was, I guess they do, but boy, that was aggravating. I mean, it was just as bad as watching the Jerry Lewis Labor Day telethon, when Jerry Lewis would, say, if you aren't sad enough already, I'm going to bring out this poor, and I'm going to show you the saddest story possible, and it'll put you in tears, and you'll run to your phone and you'll make a pledge. JR, can you guest star on the Patreon exclusive podcast? Well, Comet, it's not my show, so I have to be asked. But 2, to be honest, I'm not buying most of the satellites. In fact, I'm not buying comics anymore either. I'm reading them through serotypics. I can't even pronounce the word, but anyway, I'm reading them through sly, devious means. I stopped buying them. I've really had mixed feelings about this latest run on Spider-Man, and combined with a lot of other things. So I'm really, to be honest, 1 or 2 shows a month is enough for me. But thank you. I'm glad you want more of JR. I just thought it was 20 questions with JR time. Well, you can make it that if you want. Venkman, by the way, today is the 45th anniversary of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I first saw that movie on the CBS late movie too many years ago, folks. Before a lot of you were even born, probably, but not. I know not before what. Who was the 46-year-old guy? What? Matt Bird. Okay, not before Matt Bird was born, probably. But I thought it was funny as hell. But I didn't realize. But then it was on PBS, and so I didn't realize that the CBS version was actually edited. My mother and I watched it. I mean, I forget how old I was, but my mother, I get a lot of strangeness from my mother. I really do. A lot of my fanboy attitude and nerdiness, and a lot of strangeness I get from my mother. My mother was the original Star Trek fan, and my brother and I were both comic book fans, obviously, and my mother would be the one to ensure that we got our monthly fix. And after we got done with them, she'd read them. But anyway, we were watching it on PBS, and I knew it was a different version when the king walks by, and one of it's bring out your dad. How do you know he's the king? Well, he ain't got shit all over him. Nah. And then the knight gets all his arms and legs cut off and blood spurts out. So yeah, it's a great comedy. It's a classic comedy.
I leave for 5 minutes. You're talking about Monty Python?
Absolutely. Dante Savino. Nice. I'm Italian. I never would have guessed. I'm Italian and do a family dinner with homemade pasta and sauce. Nothing like home. What's my specialty dish? With a Spider-Man twist example, Spider-Man spaghetti. You know what? I'm a
spaghetti webbing.
I'm a very boring guy. I like my stuff basic. I'm the type of guy who doesn't like to even mix his food together. You know, it's one of those things. It drives my wife absolutely bonkers because you got like what is that? But it throws like carrots and peas and all the same thing, and I won't eat it because it all throws it together. But I'll eat them each separately.
JR has a standby snack that he often eats, made by a famous goblin, which would be a snack made by a famous goblin. That you
Oscorn.
Oscorn.
All right. But anyway, Dante Savino, that reminds me, did you ever see The Untouchables? The movie with Kevin Costner, because they're going out recruiting. Andy Garcia comes out and Sean Connery asks him, "What's your name, son?" George Stone. What was it before you changed it? And of course, then it's Italian, and Connery basically then goes to insult Italians, and Andy Garcia pulls a gun on him, and Connery goes, "I like this guy." So that's what that reminded me of. God, I love Monty Python. It was, the TV show, the movie, I really like the movies. The TV show was kind of hot and cold with me. I don't want to say too British, but I think maybe some of the humor was over my head. What comics have you read recently, JR? You know what? Even though I don't buy comics anymore, I read a lot of, been reading a lot of Marvel Unlimited.
Are you trying the new stuff?
Not really. I'm trying to think of what I read. I went back and back and caught up on some Dark Reign stuff. Caught up on a bunch of old What Ifs. I mean, it's really, it's been interesting to go back to some of the 70s stuff. What was it I read? I went back and read Secret Wars, the original Secret Wars.
Really?
I went back and read that, and
you loved it. You loved it, right?
It just was as tepid and boring as the first time I read it. I mean, it was nothing but fight, regroup, fight. And see, the whole premise in the beginning was the Beyonder says, "Slay your enemies, and everything shall be yours." But that doesn't have a resolution. It doesn't have a resolution at all. I mean, it's like the heroes don't have the villains at their mercy, and they realize, no, we are too good to kill. And the Beyonder learns a lesson about good and evil, just like the half the aliens on the old Star Trek TV show. It just kind of like, Dr. Doom gets the power of the Beyonder, and loses the power of the Beyonder, and
all right, then I don't want to listen to any more Secret Wars hate. Let's get on with the show.
Wait a minute, hang on. Okay. Let's see here, JR. Why don't you just boot Brad off the show and take over? Well, one, I hate to tell you this, it's Brad's show. It's Brad's show, and he pays for it. I serve at Brad's pleasure.
Oh my gosh!
But to be honest, Brad is the absolute essential on this show. The rest of us crazy characters, I think, we come and go, but I think Brad is literally the kingpin.
Thank you. Thank you, Bullseye.
He's the closest thing. He's the closest thing we have to a normal guy on this show.
A normal guy? All right then.
Me and George and Spidey, dude.
Yeah.
I was about to say you.
Yeah. So
you come up looking pretty good.
Hopefully, I'm gonna keep my voice for this episode. Let's start it. I'm battling a cold, and talking to JR for a full hour has strained it. So let's do another month. Okay, coming down. You ready?
A lot of people say talking to JR strains them.
You ready? By the way, let me get some water.
I'm ready.
Okay. I'm sucking on a cough drop, drinking water. The life of a 44-year-old. Okay, coming down 3, 2. Hey, Crawl Spacers, welcome to our Spider History of April. We're going back to 1994 with JR. Welcome, JR.
Well, thank you. I haven't seen you since last month.
I know. It's amazing how time flies, those 30 days. Yeah. So, which books are we reviewing? We've got Amazing 388.
Well, it's Amazing 388. And I'm not sure what I've got the rest of them are Pursuit story, but I don't know if there's any more to that or any more this month or not.
We've got Spec 211. We've got
Web
111.
Web 111.
Adjectiveless Spider-Man 45.
Okay, got that one.
I'm
Yeah,
assuming you don't want to do Mutant Agenda, which is the Beast and Spider-Man the newspaper strip.
no, I don't, because one, I
Yeah.
haven't read it. So I mean, I've got it, but I haven't read it.
Spider-Man 2099 came out this month. This
Mhm.
is the 90s, folks. So according to spiderfan.org, Spider-Man appeared in 2099 Unlimited number 4, Amazing Spider-Man 388, Ghost Rider 48, Marvel Tales 284, Marvels, the Alex Ross book, Morbius number 20, Night Watch number 1. Night Watch came out this month. JR.
That was the Spawn ripoff, right?
It was. Shroud.
That was not even a good, thinly disguised ripoff.
I know, but they're making a movie out of it if Sony will have their way, and I think Spike Lee was talking about it. Shroud number 2 came out. Spider-Man 2099 number 18 came out. Spider-Man Classics number 13 came out. 2 reprints books of Spider-Man this month.
Yeah, the Spider-Man Classics went back to the Lee Ditko years, didn't it?
It did. Hulk versus Venom came out. Thunderstrike number 7, Spider-Man was in. What's volume 2 number 2? What is that? That's on their website. It's the collect. Never mind. It's not a comic. Venom, the Enemy Within number 3 came out. So that is a lot of Spider-Man random appearances. It is the 90s after all.
It is the 90s. So we're going to stay with the
main ones.
The core titles.
Amazing 388. Did you buy the foil cover, JR?
No, I didn't. I just got the regular cover.
I did.
I don't know if I saw the foil cover, to be honest. I think, or it could be that I figured since I was already paying $225 for this one, that was more than what a comic book was worth. So, you know,
little did you know,
I wasn't paying $1 more for the foil cover. So.
I did.
How many copies of Spider-Man number 1 do you have?
Oh my gosh. You know, I actually sold some of those off recently. Not recently, 5 years ago. I bought 10 copies of each variant. 10 of the silver, 10 of the green, 10 of the bags. There's 2 bags. I also mailed off for 5 silver and 5 green autographed by Todd McFarlane. Because in the comics or something, or maybe Comic Buyer's Guide told me if you wrote to this address, ship them some money in a small envelope, you would get comics back, and I have them signed by Todd McFarlane. From the Spider's Web Comic Shop, I think is what it was called, come think of it. So how many Spider-Man number 1s did you buy? Have we reviewed that in Spider History? Spider-Man number 1, 1990?
I do not have my list with me.
Because JR makes a list of every Spider History so we don't repeat.
Yeah, I do. I've got a grid, and I have them all written down so we don't repeat. Yeah. Or if we do, or if we repeat, we do for a reason. So far, we've only repeated one month and year, and that was the first issue of the first reboot, 99. So.
Yeah.
This is
right.
We are going to do Amazing Spider-Man number 388.
Okay.
And the reason we're doing this, Brad gives me typically, and I know I've said this before, but anyway, how we come up with the Spider History, Brad throws like some alternatives out there, and I look through them and I see what they are. And I, pick one based on, one, whether we've done it before, or whether there's something intriguing or interesting about it. And this month was the end of the famous robot parents storyline.
Hate that story.
Really, the beginning of the end of Spider-Man as we knew it. This, folks, this literally was ushering in the Clone Saga.
And Michelini was getting out too. He was almost done.
Yeah, well, he wanted to stay till 400. I don't know exactly why he didn't make it, but I mean that was his goal, because what he was going to do in 400 was he was going to kill off Eddie Brock and have Venom then start jumping from various. That was his original plan, and have Venom jump to various people, but Eddie Brock Venom became too popular, and the rest is history. So
yeah.
So anyway, you want to do the?
I will. David Michelini writing, Mark Bagley on art.
Okay. As you all know, Peter Parker's parents were SHIELD agents, spies,
Yeah.
SHIELD agents, whatever. I'm not sure exactly what they are now because considering that when they first were, disappeared after World War II. They served in World War II, along with Wolverine, by the way. And they were killed by the Red Skull, but who wasn't the real Red Skull. But anyway, so that's, it was Spider-Man Annual number 5. We first met Peter Parker's parents, and they had died in a plane crash, and that was it until Amazing Spider-Man number 363 or 364, where we were introduced to a middle-aged couple. This was after the Soviet Union had fallen. The Iron Curtain had fallen. The Soviet Union collapsed, and the Soviet camps were opened, and this middle-aged couple walked out to freedom for the first time in 20-odd years. And it just so happened these were Richard and Mary Parker, or so we thought. There was always supposed to be a mystery of whether or not they were really Peter's parents. And apparently, Danny Fingeroth, who was the editor at the time, and I believe Michael Michelini, and I didn't have a chance to go back. I think it might be in that book, the Writers on Spider-Man or something like that.
The Falco wrote. That was a good book.
I think Michelini said that Fingeroth could not make up his mind whether the parents were legit. Sometimes they were, sometimes they weren't. And so it made absolute hell to try to keep it straight.
Yeah.
So this went on for 2 years. 4 titles a month for 2 years.
Did you think they were real when you were reading it?
Well, no. I never did. And the reason I never did was just because I didn't know where they would go with it.
Right.
And actually, I have an idea on if they had been real, where they should have gone with it. Because when you think about it, what are you going to do with them unless you kill off Aunt May? And
what's your theory? What should they have done with it? Tell us real quick.
What I think they should have done with it, I think they should have been, if they were real. And see, here's the thing, and this is to me why they couldn't have been real, but it is comic books. People, if you survived, which is highly unlikely that you would survive 20 years in a Soviet gulag, okay?
Right.
But if you did, you would be so damaged. And really, to me, if you were going to make them real, you could bring them back, but they would, and try as they may, they would not be able to fit into society. And at the very end, Peter would have to go to Nick Fury and said, Nick, because Nick knows that Peter's Spider-Man, and obviously, and Peter would go to Nick and said, Nick, I can't, there's nothing I can do for him. And Nick said, well, Peter, we take care of our own. I'll make sure that they're taken care of and that they're happy. That probably should have been it, but so I never really believed they were real because, one, like I said, there's no way they would have survived 20 years in a Soviet prison. And even then they wouldn't have come out halfway normal. But where would they go? What would you do with them? It's like the kids when Straczynski wanted the Goblin twins to be Peters. What do you do with them once you got them? So anyway, this went on for 2 years.
Yeah.
And the predecessor story to that, the Vulture was in there, and the Vulture's trying to be young again. So in a previous issue, he had sucked out Spider-Man's life force, and he became young, and Peter Parker became old. Well, at the end of 387, that situation reversed itself, and we meet, the Vulture's employer at that time, who happens to be the Chameleon. Now, in the previous issue, we also learned Peter decided, that he was going to reveal to his mom and dad. He felt convinced they were his mom and dad. Now, Aunt May didn't believe they were. Aunt May always thought something was off about them.
Right.
But, she hired a private detective. The private detective couldn't find anything. But so Peter and everybody's, well, Aunt May's old. She's senile, so that's probably what it is. She's just going crazy. And that's why she has a bad feeling. So anyway, Peter reveals to them at the end of 387 that he's Spider-Man. And, of course, the last page is, well, you know what this means? Peter has to die. So, they're not fake. So what this is And so basically, this is another one of the Chameleon still wants to be the crime lord of all New York. No idea why, but he just wants it. Okay, he wants to be the crime lord of all New York. But one thing he needs to do is he needs to get Spider-Man out of the way. So, what do? Well, Peter Parker takes a lot of pictures of Spider-Man. So what we'll do is we'll create robots or simulacra or whatever, shape-shifting robots. We'll disguise them as Peter Parker's parents. He'll think they're real, and he will confide in them what he knows about Spider-Man. And he'll tell them Spider-Man's identity. I'll know Spider-Man's identity, and I'll be able to hunt Spider-Man wherever he goes, whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That one that Peter would just say, oh, by the way, I trust you and love you so much. I'm going to tell you this guy's identity, by the way. I'm not sure, but anyway, it's comic books, boys and girls. So anyway, the robots are evil now. Okay, there was always the connection between Peter and Spider-Man was always kind of the tripwire that would make the robots realize that they were robots and they weren't Peter's real parents. So they report back to the Chameleon, and well, Mom is getting soft, but Dad is, just hardcore supervillain. He's hardcore evil robot now, and he's about to tell Chameleon that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and then Spider-Man, who's followed him, jumps through. And as I go through here, we've got this we have this big old fight. Robot Dad turns into half dad, half robot, and they have a big fight. And during this fight, the Vulture wanting to be young again, decides to suck the life force out of Peter's mom. Peter's mom whacks Peter's dad and kills Peter's dad. Well, actually, he's just a robot or whatever. She bashes him, or no, she sticks an electric, just a big electric line laying around you. Hey, Chi-Town Spidey's here.
Hey, what's up, Chi-Town?
Oh, okay. Does that mean we have to do we have to behave now or something? Anyway,
like
Spider-Man
have been for an hour and a half.
Spider-Man jumped through an air vent shouting, "No!" If I remember, well, you do remember correctly. That's exactly what he did. So anyway, Robot Mom picks up this big electric cable, sticks it into Robot Dad, and Robot Dad fries. Well, then Vulture, looking for a life force to sucks all the life force and turns Robot Mom old. Vulture's young, Robot Mom's old. Okay, and then Robot Mom in her dying moments confesses to Peter that she loves him, and Peter goes, "Ag, ag." Okay. Well, of course, Vulture gets arrested. Vulture's kind of like zombified right now because he drained the life force of artificial life. So he's kind of like, and Peter is starting to go bonkers now, And here's the thing. Peter says, so I'm going to find the chameleon. The chameleon got away. So I'm going to find the chameleon. And more important, I'm going to find whoever put him up to this. Now, I don't remember. Again, I didn't read this word for word, boys and girls. I got, only so much time, but I don't recall throughout this whole story the chameleon implying that he worked for anybody. The Vulture was working for the chameleon. This was the chameleon's, the chameleon was doing this, wanted to become crime lord of all New York, and also to get revenge on Spider-Man for the death of Kraven, because I don't think it was revealed that they were half brothers yet, but they were friends. They both came from Russia. And I think the chameleon had been Kraven's servant boy or whatever. Like I said, I don't think they were revealed to be half brothers this time. But so he wanted to get revenge on Spider-Man for the death of Kraven. And all of a sudden, Peter says, I'm going to find the chameleon and whoever put him up to this. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's the first time it's ever been hinted that anybody else was behind this.
Yeah.
So that is the end of robot parents.
Why was this issue double sized? I mean, there's other stories in the back. 388 seems like an odd number to double. Is it because it's Michelini's last?
I don't know. I don't know if it's because of the end of but see, it's not even Spider-Man story. The next story is Venom, The Lost Days. Okay. Yeah. Because this is where, and Michelini's writing them. And I guess Michelini did not agree with the direction that Venom was going. Didn't like the whole anti-hero thing.
Yeah.
But I believe he said that it was going to happen regardless. So he tried to stay with it as long as he could and influence it as much as he could. He figured if Venom was going to be an anti-hero, he was going to stick with it and try to stay on top of it as best he can. Right. So what we do is we get these little humanization stories. Eddie Brock is not a murdering psychopath. Okay. He doesn't break out of prison, and he doesn't go into a church and kill a young security guard, suffocate him so that he can, he can go to this church and pray to his God and hunt Spider-Man or whatever. And he doesn't bust out of prison later and kill another security guard. He doesn't, he's not that psychopath. He's actually just kind of a broken dude because, Spider-Man exposed his fake story. So the story is, Eddie helping out this Vietnam War veteran. He helps, like, what is it here? Oh, yeah. Eddie wants to learn to sneak up on people and do devious things. And he figures, well, let me find an old soldier. An old soldier will tell me what I need to do. So he finds this down on his luck Vietnam veteran.
By the name of Chuck.
Yeah. So he tries to help him out. You help me out, I'll help you out. And so the soldier teaches him about subterfuge and all kinds of things. And that's how Eddie starts to learn to sneak up on Peter. And that's where we get the web of number 18 panel of Web of Spider-Man, where just his hand shoves Peter into the railroad tracks. And
the first technical appearance of Eddie Brock.
Yeah. And, of course, it turns out the veteran goes and he takes Eddie's money. He buys drugs. He ODs. What a sad story. Yeah. But that's just kind of typical of the rehabilitation nonsense. Yeah. And, Eddie is saying Chuck was a decent man who was destroyed by forces he couldn't fight, just like we were destroyed by Spider-Man. But now we can fight and will for Chuck, for Eddie, for every innocent victim in this cold, cruel world. We swear Spider-Man must die. So if you wanted Eddie's logic for hating Spider-Man to be any more tortured, here it is.
What the Chuck? Yeah. And another cardiac and chant story at the back of this issue. We don't even have to talk about that if you don't want to.
No, cardiac, the foe of managed healthcare. Cardiac was against the healthcare system. This is a stupid, misguided anti-hero, because the real villain. I mean, if you want to be a superhero and take on the healthcare industry, you need to be a super accountant or a super lawyer. You don't go blowing shit up, I mean, that's what Cardiac did. He went and he blew shit up.
Here is how Mindworm would work. He's got a big brain. He can do those accounting numbers. He could attack healthcare. There you go. Team up with Cardiac.
That is how you reform healthcare, by going after the insurance companies and, not blowing up shit. And it's like, but this is the 90s. I mean, there's all kind of crazy ass ideas came out of the 90s. Yeah, so, but anyway, that was the end of Robot Parents. And now Pursuit starts.
All right, let's see. Where you want to go now?
Well,
adjectiveless?
It has to go to adjectiveless Spider-Man.
Well, no, actually Web. Well, you want to do Web? Because Web came out that was the first book of the month back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Web was
Web 111. That's the lizard story.
Boys and girls. I didn't read it. I was confused. I pulled out Web 112 because it was the Pursuit story. I didn't realize that any other stories were going on besides Robot Parents and Pursuit. So
it's all right. As JR said, folks. You half-assed it.
Are you being sarcastic, JR? I think you are. When am I being sarcastic? Me sarcastic?
Do you remember the savaging?
The what?
The savaging, it looks like.
Oh, is that the lizard?
The lizard and some big robot guy are going at it in Florida. Warrant is the guy's name. Warrant is escorting Billy to Florida, according to SpiderFan.org.
Oh, I see. Because Warrant
yeah.
Warrant is another one of those idiotic they were the rage in the 90s or whatever. Some kind of biomechanical super soldier or whatever. All these guys, like the Jury or that group with Round Robins. I mean, everybody big and Silver Sable's Wolf Pack or whatever. Everybody had big honking guns. They flew around in metal suits. They all shot lasers. It was like they should have just they were the same character under 100 different names.
Yeah.
So, but
according to SpiderFan.org, who is not our Spider historian, but I'll read the summation of it. Peter has to book a charter flight to Florida and admits it's cost half the mortgage to pay for it. Warrant has got Billy, who wants to be called William, with him while he looks for the lizard, while Spider-Man web parachutes into the area. Spidey finds the lizard first and tries to stop him attacking some construction workers. Warrant then shows up and holds little William, or Billy, in front of Lizard. The reptile doesn't appear to be showing any signs at all of having curtain sight. I mean, he attacks Warrant with little regard for his son. Spider-Man saves William, then gets into a three-way battle with Warrant and Lizard. Lizard falls into the quicksand pool. Oh, quicksand. Quicksand pool and sinks. Mrs. Connor shows up with Dr. Kafka, and Warrant and his assistant from the first issue are arrested. There you go.
And
Terry Kavanaugh. And it had mediocre writing, but excellent art by Alex Savick.
If it was me, the parents had to be real. I would take it and let them the end of this issue. Didn't that start the clone set? That's why we're here, Chi-Town. Yeah. That's why we're talking about this issue.
Yeah.
Or these issues. So, but sorry, I didn't read. You have to go somewhere to get your Web 111 fix.
We said enough of it. Do you even remember that story? Lord knows I didn't. I read it years ago.
But Pursuit starts now.
Wait a minute. Pursuit. What issue are we in? 45.
We're going to start. Yeah, with Spider-Man 45.
Spider-Man 45. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, we get a recap of Robot Parents, and this is where Peter starts to fray. Now,
written by Howard Mackey, art by Tom Lyle.
Basically, Pursuit is 4 issues of Peter saying nasty shit to Mary Jane.
Yeah.
Going out as Spider-Man, beating up a bunch of people, talking crazy. Chameleon hires goons to kill Spider-Man. Spider-Man beats him because he's going crazy. And then Spider-Man threatens to kill the Chameleon again at the end of the issue.
Yeah.
We do this 3 times.
By the way, Spider-Man 45 not on Marvel Unlimited, so we can't follow along.
Yeah. To be honest, like I said, I unfortunately didn't have a whole lot of time to read this, but I did flip through it. And like I said, basically that's it.
That's Pursuit.
It's 3. That's Pursuit.
And he eventually becomes the Spider, if I remember correctly.
But yeah,
right?
And so yeah, we get 3 issues of this, and then in the 4th issue, we get the Chameleon just goes completely bonkers. He takes Kraven's form, and then he starts morphing into all kinds of things, and he says, "I'm nobody." So because Spider-Man has picked up, because Spider-Man has, he goes to Kraven's grave actually, and apparently Kraven's body is gone. Chameleon's taken it, and he goes to the old Kravenoff house, and they fight, and they wind up, I think, back at Kraven's grave, and Spider-Man rips the tombstone off, and he's going to crush the Chameleon with it. But the Chameleon, just make it up, JR. Would I make up Spidey history? Anyway,
yes, you will. And I'll help you.
And so he's going to crush the Chameleon, and the Chameleon's just so pathetic, Spider-Man can't kill him. But so Spider-Man just kind of then walks back into the Kravenoff castle and walks to this random computer and starts pressing a bunch of buttons. Now, anybody, that there is no way that you can log on to a computer that ain't your own. Okay.
Even in 1993. Yeah.
He just logs onto it and finds a file that says for Spider-Man's eyes only. So like the Chameleon, because there's other stuff in here, like the history of Peter Parker's parents or whatever. So the Chameleon has access to this computer, but there's a file that says for Spider-Man's eyes only. The Chameleon didn't bother to read it, Anyway, and then we find out that it's a posthumous message from Harry Osborn. Harry stresses the Green Goblin, and remember, Harry's dead. He's really dead. He's dead this time.
He'll
Dead.
get better.
He's just as dead as Norman at this time. And Harry says, "Aha! I thought it would be a funny idea to bring your parents back and cause you and take them away from you and cause you all kinds of misery. Ha ha ha! Gotcha." Spider-Man falls to the ground, and starts bawling his eyes out. And that's the end. There's just all kinds of stupid ass stuff in this.
Did you take us through Spec also? Is that the end of it?
Spec was part 2, Web was part 3, and then the conclusion was Amazing 389.
Oh, okay. Spec 211 was Mike Lackey writing and Sal Buscema on art. Okay,
Yeah.
so Spider-Man adjectiveless ended it?
Yes. No. Spider-Man adjectiveless started it, and Amazing ended it. And basically, like I said, I've skipped through this because again, I didn't get the chance to, but it's the same plot. I mean, it really is the same plot. And this, boys and girls, this is one reason that Spider-Man was starting just to rot away here in the 90s, because all the stories after this, Beware the Rage of a Desperate Man, they're all 4-part stories.
Yeah.
So they could cross all the Spider-Man titles, and there's not enough story in any of them to fill 4 issues.
Right.
And Peter just starts getting crazier and crazier and crazier, and you realize what's happening, because I figured out when I first saw the mysterious figure with the Midtown High School class ring. I thought that's the clone, because he's talking to Aunt May or whatever on the phone. Aunt May's having mysterious conversations with this guy. It's got to be the clone coming back. And so what was clearly happening, I think, was the deliberate sabotage of Peter's character to make him look goofy, to make him look crazy, to make him look unstable, so that Ben Reilly would come off looking like the smooth, calm, collected hero. It's like, like I said, there's, the way Peter talks to Mary Jane is stupid. Peter goes to the graves of Uncle Ben and Aunt May, and I think he goes or does he go to his parents' grave in part 1? Let me check on this, boys and girls. But he has this ridiculous conversation that, like, why did you leave me, and things like that. Okay, yeah, why did you? Now he goes to Richard and Mary's graves, and he basically talks like a 5-year-old. Why did you have to leave me alone? It's like, Peter, I thought you were raised by a couple of good people. I mean, I don't, but then again, I was raised by my normal parents, natural parents. I guess I've never, I don't know what it's like to lose somebody, but Peter didn't lack for parents. They just weren't his biological parents.
Right.
But that's just kind of the madness that we get into. And then DeMatteis takes it into a whole crazy level with the child within, with and just this whole which Peter had never felt before in all these years. This abandonment. Peter all of a sudden has these abandonment issues. Which
very forced.
Doesn't make a rat's ass worth of sense. And we were getting this every month. Every month. And then we get to the clone saga, and of course how that shit pile turned out.
Right.
But this is where it starts, folks. This is the end of the robot parent story.
We at the top of this show, we gave a list of all the books that came out this month. One that I'm particular, I know you're not prepared for this. Well, are you ever? No, I'm just kidding. Marvel's number 4 was The Death of Gwen Stacy with the Green Goblin in the eye. A great looking Alex Ross cover. What are your thoughts on that issue of Marvel's by Alex Ross?
I mean, I liked it because it was the Green Goblin. It was a Green Goblin painted by Alex Ross. And that Alex Ross does a great job with the Green Goblin. He does a great job with Spider-Man. The whole idea of Marvel's was that it was a kind of a reporter's eye view on the ground when the superheroes are starting to show up.
What was the name of that reporter? Phil something.
Phil, yeah. It's not Phil Smith. I want to Phil Sheldon, I think.
Phil Sheldon, yeah. He worked for the Daily Bugle, right?
Huh?
Was he?
Yeah,
he worked for the Daily Bugle. Yeah.
Yeah. And he didn't have any use for Peter Parker. But the whole idea was, you know, I mean, the heroes are starting to show up, and so he kind of gives this, and he does all this sermonizing. I forget who wrote it. Was it Busiek who wrote it?
Kurt Busiek, yeah.
Yeah. And so there's all this sermonizing, but anyway, the way he brings Spider-Man and the Green Goblin and the death of Gwen Stacy into it is because this time the heroes fail. You know, usually the heroes, they save everybody, they save the day, they save the girl. This time the hero fails, the hero doesn't save the girl, which is one reason why it's a classic moment in Spider-Man, why it's a classic moment in comics history. I just didn't care for the overall series, but like I said, Alex Ross painting the Green Goblin and Spider-Man is a must buy.
Vinkman corrects us. Phil Sheldon worked for the Daily Globe. Okay.
Oh, that traitor. He worked for that bum Bushkin.
Also, Vinkman says Adjectiveless and Spec had ads for the Marvel Mart. What is the Marvel Mart? Refresh me. Do you remember?
I don't know. Somebody, you go in and someone says, "Welcome to Marvel."
Vinkman, help us what the Marvel Mart is. Was that
Marvel?
When Marvel was selling their T-shirts and stuff, or was that when they were trying to buy their distribution apart? Do you see the ad in the book, JR?
Well, not yet. Marvel Vision. That's got to be scary. I wonder if that's like ColecoVision.
When you get it, hold it up to the camera because I'd love to see it. Oh, Marvel. Yeah, selling T-shirts is what Chi-Town says. I remember the Marvel Mart.
I'm looking at an adjective list here, and I don't see it yet. I do see an ad for Mile High Comics, a full-page ad for Mile High Comics.
Let me guess, it's yellow.
Yep.
Yep, I remember those ads.
And I've been there, boys and girls. I've been to the Mile High Comics.
I want to go there.
Palladium's Megaverse. I don't know what the hell that is. Oh, High C Fruit Drinks. The makers of High C Fruit Drinks and the X-Men bring you the juiciest offer in history.
So you can drink Wolverine's juice. Gross.
Yeah, you said that, I didn't. I didn't see anything for Marvel Mart. Anyway.
Go to Spec and Adjective list. Try Spec.
Well, I did go to Spec. Go to Spec.
Try Adjective list. Okay.
I tried Adjective list. Go to Spec.
Okay.
More yellow pages. Superman versus Doomsday. Okay.
They're advertising that in the Marvel book?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah. Let's see here. Order by April 2nd and get a free limited Batman Spawn poster. Ooh.
Hold that up. That's got to be an ad for a comic selling. Yes, I remember those ads. What was the name of that company selling those? What was that?
Entertainment This Month.
Oh, I remember that. I want mailed off for one of those catalogs. I remember those in the 90s.
Gainesville, Virginia. I wonder if they still exist.
I don't know.
Multi-title sale, juiciest offer. We didn't even cover the fruit pie ads last month. I guess Tops. Well,
Marvel Mart.
Bullpen bulletins with the cartoon Tom DeFalco. I don't know. Yeah.
Vinkman, we don't have a Marvel Mart. Sorry,
I was wrong. Yeah, I couldn't find it.
Okay.
So, but this is a fairly short one. I mean, like I said, sometimes on these stories, sometimes there just isn't anything you can do with them.
Yeah.
Sometimes, for example, you can take a piece of crap like Stalker to the Stars. Remember that one?
Yes.
The Larry Lieber story. Sometimes you can make a whole show something stupid like that and have a blast with it. And a lot of these other stories, it's like, what do I do? What do I do? It's like you just narrate what happens.
I think it's interesting that you and I have been doing this show for 10 plus years, and I've never heard your opinion on Marvels. And that was interesting that you didn't care for the story, but you liked the art. I never knew that.
Well, now you know.
I've learned more about my friend tonight.
Here's the thing with me, and this is one reason why I'm a very boring person, is I don't like somebody trying to make me and my money part. And that is how I review all these ancillary series and limited series and mini series or whatever. You're not trying to entertain me. You're just trying to take my money. And I resent people who try to take my money.
Marvel's was expensive, if I remember correctly, but it was a painted book. I bought it, and it had a special cover on it. It was like you laid something on top of it, so it was double the price. So
the one clever thing though about Marvel's was that you could go through it and you could see sometimes Ross used real life people for his for the heroes. Sometimes he used his friends, like I think J. Jonah Jameson and Peter Parker were friends of his. But Mr. Fantastic, for example, was Russell Johnson, the professor from Gilligan's Island. I think Professor X was Yul Brynner. But there were some familiar faces sprinkled through that.
To bring it back, Marvel's is being re-released. It's called Marvel's Annotated. It's coming out currently, actually. I think there's like notes in the columns and stuff like that. I didn't pick it up. I've already got the originals. But for Christmas, I bought, what is it called? I've got it on my shelf. Marvelocity, Alex Ross. I can't recommend that book enough. It's a hardcover book. It's a collection of almost every piece of art that Alex Ross has done. And in the back of it, JR, is an original Sinister Six story featuring the Goblin in the Sinister Six.
Oh.
Norman is in the book as drawn by Alex Ross. I highly recommend the book.
I'll have to look for that somewhere.
Original, like a 10, 12-page Sinister Six story.
But is it any good?
Yeah, it's real good. It's real good. It's real good. So
I tell you, there's a great picture that Alex Ross did of the Green Goblin.
I know exactly the one you're talking about. It's a full face on, like after a brand new day.
Yeah, it was during I've got it at the tip of my tongue. Die with a Vengeance, or Tales of Vengeance, or
New ways to die.
New ways to die.
That's it. Yeah, great, real tight shot of the Goblin's face. Yeah.
I've got a poster of that, and I don't have it. In fact, it's right here. I've never.
Oh my gosh! It's
it. And I've also, and then there's this other poster, which is the cover of, I think, Amazing Spider-Man 798 or something, one of the Alex Ross ones. Maybe it was 796 when the Red Goblin story starts and the Green Goblin is flying out of his glider through the Spider-Man symbol. That's this, and then this is the full-faced one.
I have a suggestion for your house. So what is the item right over your shoulder to your right? Look to your right. There is like a wall. Like, keep going way in the background. What is that wall back there? What is that wall?
It's a wall.
No, to your left. Point to the left. Left. That. What is that?
Those are my cabinets. That's where I keep all my collectibles.
Why don't you hang up that Goblin poster on the side of that, and that'll be over your shoulder for every episode? That Alex Ross print right over your shoulder. Hang it on that cabinet. It'd look great.
But I'll reduce the condition from mint.
How cool would that be? That would be so cool.
That's not a bad idea. What do you think about that, boys and girls?
Well, I tell you what, I'm like feng shuiing JR's pad. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I guess I could go with this here. That's from the cover of Amazing 122.
Yeah,
I bought this at a convention or whatever. When Spencer and I went to a convention, I took Spencer to a convention once, and he got a
nice.
What did he get? I got him a Punisher.
The YouTube chat, Chi-Town says, "Do it now, JR. Do it now."
No. We're not
going to be hanging posters at this time of night.
I always thought I wanted to get it framed and matted, though. Take it someplace and get it professionally framed.
Go do that, and then hang it on the side of your cabinets back there. It'd be a great looking background. Great looking background.
I would. So, but anyway, so that was.
My question. I got to ask you every episode to wrap it up. Was April 1994 a good month in Spider history?
No. No.
Why? Why? Explain. Well, you already did.
Because the story sucked.
Yeah.
What else do you need to know? The story sucked. But no, I mean, really, you have to. I mean, just the whole robot parents thing. 2 years. This subplot went on for 2 years. And this is I don't know. I don't know what it was. I guess you can't necessarily place all the blame on the staff at Marvel, because at this time they were owned by Ron Perlman's corporate raider company.
Yeah.
And then they went public. He took them public, but after the way these corporate raiders work, they'll buy a company, okay, and then they'll expand it. They'll take out a whole bunch of loans. Yeah. And this is exactly what they did. They took out a whole bunch of loans. They bought Fleer cards. They bought
Toy Biz.
Panini stickers. Well, they had an agreement with Toy Biz. See, that's the thing. They had a licensing agreement with Toy Biz. Actually, Toy Biz bought Marvel.
Oh, wow.
What ultimately happened. So what they did was they loaded Marvel with debt. Just load it with debt, and then they took it public. And so everybody at Marvel, I mean, not everybody, but Ron Perlman's goons then, when Marvel went public, they took in like hundreds of millions of dollars, just cash. And Marvel then was left with billions of dollars of debt. And then that's when the comic market crashed, the collectibles market crashed, everything crashed. And that's when Marvel, and the reason, and see, Toy Biz, Marvel had, I don't know how Toy Biz, well, Marvel wasn't too careful with some of its licensing. And I don't know who entered this agreement with Toy Biz, but Toy Biz, I think, had an extremely, extremely favorable deal to produce Marvel action figures.
Yeah.
And almost like for nothing.
I could be wrong, and don't quote me on this, but I think it was Avi Arad.
Yeah, it was Avi Arad and Ike, I want to say
Avi Arad was the CEO of the company Toy Biz. There it is.
Yeah,
I just looked it up.
But it was Isaac, the guy who's still in charge now. The old dude.
Putterman.
Yes.
Isaac Putterman, yeah.
And then when Marvel was going down the drain, and the reason Toy Biz bought it was because, I mean, nobody wanted Marvel. I mean, apparently, Lucasfilm took a look at it.
Really? That's crazy.
There were other groups that,
I wonder if Disney looked at it. I wonder if they did.
I don't know. But and I think a group that was the guy who owns Mile High Comics, he was part of a group.
Rosansky or something like that.
Yeah. They put together a group that considered buying it, but it just had too much debt, way too much debt. And T. Boone Pickens was making a play for it, but Toy Biz took it because Toy Biz, they realized that whoever bought Marvel was not going to give them as lucrative a licensing deal. So really, Toy Biz bought Marvel to
make toys
for the licensing.
Yeah,
for the licensing.
That's crazy.
I mean, because Isaac Perlmutter could never read a comic book and could give a rat's ass about the characters. Avi Arad gets a lot of flack because he's basically he's a flamboyant egotist and
he produced Spider-Man Sony movies.
Yeah, everybody blames him for forcing Venom on Sam Raimi when it was actually a pretty good idea to bring Venom in. So Avi Arad gets a lot of flack, and maybe deservedly so. But Avi Arad saved Marvel Comics. Really, yeah. I think he did. Avi Arad genuinely loved the characters. Avi Arad had a motorcycle, had a leather jacket with a big Spider-Man on the back, and one of the reasons he knew these characters had universal appeal is because he would go, because Avi Arad was a biker, but he was a rich dude. He and Perlmutter were pretty rich. So he'd go in these swanky clubs and you'd have, rich stockbrokers and people in $100,000 suits coming up to him and commenting on his Spider-Man jacket, so he knew that there was a great love for these characters. And really the reason that he deserves a lot of credit. He really does. I mean, for whatever's happened after that, he's in my opinion, the worst book. There's a book about this, but honest to God, if you don't have a business background, it's as boring as shit.
Well, Marvel: The Untold Story, I would highly recommend they go into that a bit. And JR, I don't think you've read it, but I highly recommend that book.
I haven't read it.
Yeah,
so.
it's really good.
But
All right,
anyway.
everybody, thanks for listening. This was a good one. All right.